Clerk has to do the next part of the agenda anyway.
Mine's sliding down a little bit.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of filled up over
All
here.
right, Brian's busy with it.
Yeah, I know. You're taking up all the room over there.
Okay, we're down.
More
Jason moved
presentation
down.
and you want any action taken? 'Cause you
I was
started.
moving you.
No action.
Stuart moved
Yeah.
down so Ariana can
So
take.
just more like a
Anyone sees
presentation.
trustee-
to
I'm not big, but I need
the
some
handoff
room.
of the baton to the next iteration of the board. Right. Okay.
I always want to feed you.
I eat very well.
Time to see in New York.
Is this the New
Yeah,
York Times?
I saw that. Yeah.
Stuart, I was gonna fit this out and I didn't have time, and of course you brought it.
The
No, was that one of your
environmentalist-
interns who did that? Was that one of her papers?
Yeah.
The footnote said was a sheer clear sign. It was a college paper, so it was
Oh, I
great.
know. I was like,
Nice.
citations, please.
Yeah. No,
Because
that's great that you did
I knew
that.
especially with this one over here that we would need them.
Yeah. No, I like it. I like the fact that there's two paths, banning and then fine and fee. So I like the pros and cons.
Well, you know,
shape to it.
we actually can't do a fee because New York State law is precluded.
That's what's the word? We ran into pesticides. Preemption.
Yeah.
They preempt us doing a fee but not a ban.
Because the
That's a
communities
shame
are.
because the fee is much a better option.
Well, yeah, but that's, I mean, meetings with very lot. We can have this discussion on camera.
Yeah. Are you ready, Katie?
Just give me
We're,
5
well, we're waiting on you to read the notice of public hearing. So whenever you're ready to start yelling. I thought he was, yeah.
Who coming?
Kurt. But you know, we've already discussed the B3 at a bunch of meetings. You probably don't need
I called
him to.
him and he said he hadn't heard from you.
I talked to him this afternoon, so
I called him
No, I
at
think
6
we're in good shape with it. I just have one correction that he didn't make.
which one is that?
I know, I caught it
Does it change the
too.
law or is it?
No, it doesn't change the law.
Okay, then we can do
Well,
that tonight.
it changes it a little bit, but
No, not significant.
Not like the meaning of the clause, like adding a comma that makes an and instead of an or.
it's not grammatical.
Okay.
Ariana is more liberal and therefore it doesn't change.
Okay.
All right, whenever you're ready, Katie, please read the notice of public hearing.
Please take notice that a public hearing will be held by the Board of Trustees of the Village of New Paltz on May 22nd, 2013 at 7:30. Public hearing regarding the adoption of local law to establish the North Chestnut Street Gateway.
Anyone here to speak to that local law? In favor or opposition? Yeah?
I guess I just have a question. I didn't realize the public hearing for that was tonight.
Okay.
Is this just adopting the fact that you are creating the North Chestnut Street District, or is there like a list of?
It's the every particular about the district that's being created, yeah, which was the subject of I think, your meetings with Kurt
Yes, I'm
in
just
January.
surprised because we didn't actually get any final draft of what that's going to look like. So I really can't comment if I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, I wasn't at the meeting. If there, I don't know if there's discussion about that or if it's just a matter of people assume that your input was put into the law.
It definitely was,
Yeah.
but I didn't, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, so is this
Is
the
Kurt-
public hearing for this?
This is the, well, it depends. We'll tell you what, why don't, were there particular concerns that DBA or business had about the law? Let's hear them now. I mean, this is a place to
Yeah, I
hear
mean,
them.
gosh, off the
Or
top
about
of
the
my head.
concept, because we can tell you if it's in the law or not.
Okay. Basically, some of the concerns were, one, the existing businesses there wanted to know that they were still going to have the rights that they currently have in addition to the new rights under the business.
Yeah.
They are not considered non-conforming uses anymore. They are left as they are.
Okay.
Wait, specifically the
Automobiles.
Yeah.
What's that?
Specifically the automobile place?
Smitty's
The automobile?
is fine.
Well, that was, one who expressed
Right.
concern, but I'm sure there's others. Yeah. Another one of the things that.
And let me be clear, Julie, it's allowed, but with a special use permit. So it's not allowed as of right, as the way, for example, like a mixed-use retail and apartments would be. But you can still get one, but it's got, the planning board needs to take a harder look at the things with the special use permit. There may be particulars to each individual, it basically is a matter of the particulars to that site need to be taken into account. So it wouldn't be a blanket, any automotive business can be allowed without question. It's, depends how it's designed, how it fits into the existing neighborhood.
This was actually just in reference to the existing.
Okay, so then yeah, okay.
Right, not any new businesses will go under this new.
Sure, yes.
Right. other concerns were, and I apologize, but I wasn't prepared to say anything, I don't have anything in front of me, but, not duplicating what is on Main Street down in the North Gateway District. What do you call it? North Chestnut Street Gateway District.
I think you'll find that for the most part, it doesn't.
Okay.
Except in broad categories. I mean, we're gonna have retail in both places, we're gonna have,
Well,
both places.
No, but it
It's-
specifically doesn't.
There's limited business retail. The idea of having like a grocery store or there's a lot of that kind of stuff that is a lot like a cafe, something that is like walking distance, but it's all very limited.
But I think
And most of these things have special permit uses.
Right. And one of the other things we talked about.
Deb, not Deb, sorry. Julie, before we move on, because this is kind of an interesting conversation that I don't think it happens behind the scenes, but in public. Let me ask you, as a playing devil's advocate,
Sure.
what is the not the good from the point of view of a business owner, but if you're at the table in terms of all 7,000 people who live here and all the business owners are in this 2 square miles we have governance over, what's the public good in restricting the expansion of those types of businesses that have already been successful downtown? Is because I've heard two, kind of the broad category is one, on the one hand, people seem to have that theory that they're kind of a limited pie, and the more you slice it up, the less there's for everybody. But some people think the opposite. The rising tide lifts all boats. What's the DBA?
I mean, the answer to that is kind of twofold. One, I think this is a huge opportunity to create a wonderful walking community for the residents in that area, to increase tourism, because one of the things we talked about a lot was putting some type of boutique hotel or indoor conference center. I mean, I think
That's
that
in
really
here.
is an amazing opportunity to do some great things there. The flip side is just, already within the core business district downtown, you have gaps, right? So for businesses, people who
You mean
walk-
physically between buildings?
Physically, like pedestrian gaps, like people barely go from Main Street to Church Street because they don't visually, there's no continuity.
Right.
So to try to make, that, the North Chestnut Street Gateway District, a continuation of Main Street, I think is not the right way to go in the beginning. Not to say that that couldn't happen decades down the road, but, that was.
But also too, like Julie says, that they were on the committee too. But also to really kind of blend it in with the characteristics.
So hold on, Mike, you're important. This is Mike, he's the president of the Chamber of Commerce, so, pay attention to what he's saying.
Okay, thanks. And anyway, I was just getting.
Yeah, you're important, Mike. You gotta use your title.
We can do that.
But the whole idea is to kind of blend it in with the characteristics of the neighborhood of this proposed gateway. In a sense, too, you have the Huguenot Street, you have other characteristics of that neighborhood. And it's just to kind of be sensitive as to the structures to be sure it kind of blends in. And yes, you have that coordination with Main Street, but also since you're turning around the corner on Sunday, you have other types of attractions there too. So the whole idea is to kind of blend in a certain feeling of the village. And yeah, it's one thing what kind of restaurants or retail establishments you have, but again, being kind of sensitive to the height of the buildings, to maybe some brick structures, stone structures, that's part and parcel of that neighborhood. And we spent quite a bit of time.
Right, and we also discussed, the opportunity of creating a real sustainable, putting in sustainable building.
Julie, I think if you look on the second page under permitted uses, you'll see that those pretty much address the ones that you and the committee raised. And then there are some that are permitted by special permit. I hate special permits, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, once I read this,
Yeah.
everything I'm saying right now might be,
So I think
but I
it
just
covers-
hadn't had a chance to look at it.
Yeah, it covers the list of concerns that you presented. Getting interested.
Also, going back to what you had asked, what I think Julie had asked, and I'm sure you were kind of clear. So based on that she was not familiar with this and we did not know that this was coming, is this being voted to go through tonight, or can there be an extension?
It's up to the board if.
I was not thinking we would close the public hearing.
We can hold it open, we can continue to the next meeting, whatever is, whatever the board likes. We can close it and just still take comments and move on at our next meeting. We could move on it tonight if
Yeah, I mean,
if we chose.
I know Ariana is really familiar with everything we discussed, and if you feel like it's been addressed in there, then I trust you, and.
I mean, I definitely feel like most of it has been, things have been included, but it could be tweaked more if there's things that when you look at it, stand out. I know Kurt really included all of the things that we talked about, and made an effort to do so. I mean, when we sat down and talked about it, he talked about the meetings with you, so, at the board table. But there's definitely, it could be, I think some of this could be shifted out of special permitted uses into, principal permitted uses, if that's, doable. Since special use permits, I know, came up, and the idea that it takes a while to go through the planning board and to get a special use permit in an area where it might not be already permitted, and it ends up being much more costly for a local business that wants to start up a hotel, and I think that some of the other things, are good to have in walking distance from the mixed-use residential areas, like a coffee shop or like general grocery store. Hardware store was also included in that, and I think that could work since we don't have any in our main core district. So.
Yeah, so I guess to answer your question, I guess I would have liked to have the opportunity to forward this to the other people who are on the committee and other interested parties, so if they wanted to comment, they would have that opportunity. So.
Yeah, I think we can continue the public hearing.
Well, I've not seen the final draft.
I've not seen the final draft.
Well, actually, we have maybe a counterweight to that, because I know Rich Casano has been a local business owner. He owns property in V3 and actually has even gone so far as proposed an architectural sketch back in 2004 or 5 to the planning board about a mixed-use project. Maybe. So I know, Rich, you have thoughts on this before we decide how we're moving forward. Do you want to say anything about the project?
The whole concept when it came to understand what the village was looking to do 8 years ago, thought it made sense. And it's been a long time. And we've done a tremendous amount of work on the code and engaging with the DBA to kind of understand what maybe is conflicting or non-conflicting, what's a good match for, that part of the village, which definitely right now is just like it's a speed trap. That's all it is. The police like to hang out there and wait for cars to come in and do 55 miles an hour and pull them over in front of Adwine, in front of my house. And it needs to be slowed down, and it needs to have some more amenities for the northern gateway of the village to be able to access who you're going to feed bicycles, because there's nothing for us. There's no market, which is a great supporter of the new rezoning. Other than that, you've got a bipartisan business owner who's also in Ulster and in Dutchess County with that way. You've got a car wash that's quote unquote almost unusable. Definitely not attractive architecture. You've got, Village Arms, which is, 60s brick buildings, not a lot of, updated landscaping, setback from the curb. This all brings streetscaping and it allows the people to enter into the facilities with sidewalks, which in the code I think makes 100% sense. It doesn't exclude any business uses from coming in at this point. As far as I know, it doesn't exclude anything from coming in. Otherwise, if you want to, I guess the radiation treatment facility, you have to go through a special use to probably do so. But it allows for anybody to do whatever they want. At least a chance to get a business in there. Under the same restrictions you go into each one to in a lot of other parts of the village.
Well, like I said, I think it's a huge opportunity, for the village. But, my concern is just, let's do it right so everyone's really successful. And so it does complement the surrounding districts. I think, we talk about being a walking, biking community, and this is the perfect opportunity to really do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of local people up in that.
Yeah, there's so many apartment complexes that surround.
There's also a lot of houses, Sunset Ridge, you got the museums, you got the Paltz guys, you got Huguenot, and you kind of broke it up from where you'd actually enter into the rail trail down by the, your only option is to go through Old Kingston, where you have to cut the Bosse's. There's no actual direct route to get back to the rail trail from those
Well, that
areas.
was one of the things we really talked about, was using the rail trail as a little thoroughfare and having paths to it.
Yeah, I mean,
So let me ask this question, because I just from the lack of any comments from the village board and the comments here, is there anyone who thinks it's a bad idea? I mean, it's a public hearing. Is there anyone here who thinks this is not a good zoning change? Nobody. So I think what I'm hearing is what it is the question of whether we are done enough now that we could take action tonight, or whether we want to take one more meeting to make sure the last little I's are dotted and T's are crossed. I mean, that's the range of options I'm hearing,
My original
right?
point was that there's not a lot of people here
Yeah.
that knew about it. So
My
no
thought
one,
is, I mean, we did discuss this with us the night we discussed it. But my problem is that if the members of the committee who helped develop this have not seen it.
Well, there's never a committee the way we form other committees to write laws. This was legislation that's roughly already done, consulting with the DDA, but the same argument holds true.
But they still, the Historical Society was involved, Ariana sat on that committee, people from downtown business.
I mean, it wasn't just the DBA, it was, the Chamber,
And
the
I think
Historic
it would be
Preservation
very
Commission.
nice
It was,
if they had the law that they are so concerned about in hand and
Yeah.
reviewed.
Well, let me ask
Well, I
this
was
other
thinking we
question.
would hold the public hearing open anyway.
Yes.
Especially because the change that we made wasn't even in there for, in our agenda packet. So I think.
I checked with Jill, minor changes.
I know it's minor, but I think regardless of how minor or major it is,
But
if
I
it's not
have a
grammatical, we should
question.
hold it open.
When you create a new zone, like we're doing here, which is very good, why do we have anything that's needs a special use permit? If you're creating a new business district, then it would seem to me you should be able to define that with all of the things that you believe should be there.
My understanding is that you want the special use permit because special use permit is still a normal. It's not rare necessarily. What it says, at least my understanding is, what it says is that certain types of development or certain categories of business or categories of use, I guess, should be given a more fine-grained look by real flesh and blood human beings. That's why you write the conditions of a special use permit. The things that are subjective or take human judgment rather than something you can chart out and map out ahead of time.
But all
Like we may
all of these
know
things
we
have
want.
site plan review
Right.
anyway.
True, but the special use permit gives you more flexibility to enforce conditions.
I think special use permits get this village into more trouble than it's worth.
And I mean, I think, something like the automobile repair shop, something that we're looking to keep the existing businesses, give them the ability to do it and have that, or even move within that area, because I know that that's one of the issues that came up is what if we want to move to this other location. But so maybe that could require a special use permit, while something that would require, if you're building a building and it's going to require site plan review anyway, and I can't think of any of the buildings that would be able to be turned into a hotel.
Well, before we get too deep into this conversation, this is still a public hearing. So let me just check in. Is there anyone from the public here to speak about this law? John?
I just wanted to say that I wish we had the law printed out here, because I didn't read it, and I'd love to read it and see what it's, just so I can say something intelligently. So if we could maybe if we could have one more meeting where we could just, another chance to just give you some input, I would appreciate that. So,
And obviously because of I mean, so maybe between now and the next meeting, at least, this is Stuart and Brian's last meeting, but the three of us will be here after June, could make sure to hash over all these questions about special use permits with Joe, with Kurt, to make sure our understanding is as complete as it can be before we come to the table and pull the trigger, because I'd hate to pull the trigger and have us have to rewrite the law.
There is one change we made, and that is on side yards.
Yeah, it was a 0 to 15
And we
feet.
changed it 0 to 15.
So a maximum instead of a minimum.
It's
Yeah.
0 to 15 max.
Okay, I
Well,
like
well,
that.
actually, what we said we would do was eliminate the word, and this is from the minutes, eliminate the word minimum.
Yep.
And instead use the phrase 0 to 15 feet at the discretion of the planning
Planning
board.
board.
Right.
Because the conversation
To
was
keep
the
it tighter.
idea that, well, we want to keep it tighter because we want to increase walkability and the connectivity, but we don't want to require that somebody
Right.
have a setback or require
Each
that
side
they
is
do
different. You
not.
never know
If
what's-
somebody wants to have the side yard
Right.
parking, they can, but.
Question, Katie, is this on the website?
It is not. I'm actually texting, sending Kurt an email right this second, because when I went to make a public notice to do everything, I went to Kurt and said, we'd had this conversation, it's noted in the minutes, can I have the most updated copy of the law, which is what he gave me and which is what I distributed. And it's an honest mistake, and I'm asking him if he could send me, and then I'll make sure it's on the website tomorrow as right on the front page as a separate
Okay.
issue.
If we can get it up on the website now, then we don't have to ask people to sign up to get copies.
No, I'll have it up by tomorrow morning.
And I would like to move that we keep the hearing open to give those people who have particular interests a chance to review it and come back June 1st to
Yeah,
meet with us and give us the comments.
Well, before we vote on
Yeah.
that, any other public comments? Because we're kind of starting to rush ahead here. None?
Oh, I
Okay.
thought you were done.
I just want to make double check.
Oh, okay.
I just want to double check. So the motion's on the table. Are you seconding?
oh yeah.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah. Katie, if you would, copy the link from the website and then post it on Facebook or just post it back
Happy
to
to.
the Facebook.
Happy to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think of that because you know I don't do Facebook.
Right.
Right.
It goes out to everyone. Or at least
And also, just the idea that when we have a public hearing on something, we should always have the law put on the website, so that anybody can look at it before coming here to hear us talk about it.
Yeah.
And before we go, if I might request that the list that you gave Kurt of the people, Katie, that has signed up early on before Kurt, that were interested in this topic and wanted to be a part of the discussion, Rich and Julie and
Right.
Jonathan and who else, but if those people could get an email telling them it is posted and that we've kept the hearing open for their opportunity to come and review this, because this is a biggie.
Absolutely. I actually did not generate that list, but I will get it from
Well,
Kurt.
Kurt has it.
We'll get it. It'll happen. No matter what, it will happen.
Yeah, I guess I just thought that Kurt would have communicated with the committee that he was, or maybe not committee, but working group, ad hoc working group, that we had worked with. So
So
I'm
we're
sorry
gonna, I
about
think
that.
we should leave it open.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean,
Well,
Because we made a motion.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Excuse me. All in favor? Aye.
Sally?
She voted aye.
Aye.
All right. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Anything to add to the agenda? Oh, did we? What did I email you before about Fortis? No, what was
Sorry.
it?
No, KT2.
Oh, the grant application. There's a request from KT Tobin for us to write a letter of endorsement for a grant, green infrastructure grant SUNY's applying for. So, and I'll distribute this to people. You can look it over if you'd like, or we can table it. But the deadline's Friday.
And I can speak to that as
You
well.
know something about it too. Yeah, you're right. I realized as I'm talking. Is there anything else to add to the agenda?
I'd just like to add just a quick update on the status of the fire protection contract.
All right. And All right, I'll move to approve the, let me see, I'm sorry, one more change is to remove the April 17th and 24th minutes because we got them too late to read them. Any objection to remove that from consent?
No. Also, number 5, I had questions about from the
Okay.
consent agenda.
Again, if you could just please let us know ahead of time so we can make the consent agenda work, that'd be great.
You're taking it off?
I only got this today.
The agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah, she did.
How did you want to get it today? It was sent out Monday?
Because the village email address doesn't always, sometimes it comes through, sometimes it
Oh,
doesn't.
you can't- it doesn't- have you called Brian?
I mean, I've talked to him a number of times, yes. And sometimes I get emails from it and sometimes I do not. And I've had many people send things through the clerk because they've bounced back to their emails. But so I didn't get it till today, so that's why I didn't ask any questions.
Is there anything else from the consent agenda?
Oh, so we're taking 5
5 off as well as April 10th or 8th.
Regular. Do we have the park use request for Monsanto?
We do. It's at the table. It's at the table. It was not there on Thursday when I made the agenda.
I don't have it.
It's got a piece of paper in front of it asking us if we would, asking the board if they would consider waiving the insurance. It's got an email from Sally. Actually, just take mine.
It's not in my file.
Oh, okay. Just take mine.
I don't know. I got it.
So are you asking that to be removed from the consent agenda?
I think we better take 6 and off it and
All right,
discuss.
well, just, one more reminder that the way the consent agendas are supposed to work. There's supposed to be consensus before tonight.
You don't want that on the consent because you're waiving liability.
Yeah, but it's not, we'll talk about it, not right here.
And number 10 goes off.
We're done with 10, okay. No, it's been changed, remember?
You're right, but we don't need to do anything with it.
You
Is it
might
true?
want to.
We need to, the revised
That's-
letter.
That's the memo packet that came in this afternoon at 12:34. Number 10 has paid the bill as requested, but is asking the village to waive the late fees. So again, you have to make that
I
decision.
don't have anything.
It's at the table. It's right in front of you.
It came in at 12:32.
No.
Oh, yeah.
I have it in this pile of papers that was on the table.
I seem to be missing. Did you steal my pile?
Sally, I will need that. I will need that little thing back.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you,
Don't
Sally.
sign that pile.
So 2 here, yeah. All right, now, unless there's any other additions, I move to approve the agenda.
Second, so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Public comments? Yes, Vicki.
Thank you. I'd like to read this letter to the board, and I have copies to distribute, which has attached information. The subject is Mayor West's misrepresentations relating to the recent village trustee election. Dear members of the village board, I'm asking you to consider this issue by reviewing the information attached and then taking immediate action to relieve Jason West of the position of village mayor. As a result of carefully reviewing and then successfully challenging 2 recent ballot petitions, it became clear that Mayor West had lied about his residence on April 2. His current address was listed as 38 Church Street, a place he left in December or January when his lease was not renewed. In addition, he lied about his address on May 7th, Election Day, when he signed the poll book of registered voters above the incorrect address, although an election inspector questioned him about its validity and he replied that it was correct.
Not true.
In none of these cases would it have been right to present a former address, or a wished-for address, or a potential address. One may wonder why Mayor West felt that his 3 lies were necessary. He could have chosen not to sign the petitions of Don Kern and Rebecca Rotzler. He could have chosen not to vote, because only registered voters who reside in the village can legally vote in village elections. Jason West's action displayed disregard for correct process in public business, and the critical importance of valid local elections. In these 3 instances, he openly shows total contempt for the very basis of representative democracy. I urge you all to call for his immediate resignation and perhaps to press further charges as may be considered appropriate. State law provides that the Board of Trustees of a village may take all measures and do all acts which shall be deemed expedient or desirable for the good government of the village, its management and business. Please carry out your duties.
Thank you, Vicki. For the record, I won't be responding to your ridiculous hyperbole. Is there any other public comment?
Pass that down.
Yes, Ira?
I don't know if this is proper, so I'm going to stand. I was wondering, is there any possibility of moving item 14?
I second that motion.
Do what?
Of course. Yeah, we just haven't gotten to that part where I see
Oh, I
people here.
didn't know if you were going to do it. I think.
No, after public comment, we'll see where people are here for and try to get them out home
Okay,
early as
there's
usual.
2 other items that I want to list.
What were the other 2?
11 and 12. Because I'm involved in
Okay.
all this.
Stuart has, just so you know, Stuart has told me that because we were getting the documentation for a good chunk of this tonight, Stuart's not expecting us to take action.
Right, no,
More
I
a
just-
presentation and a handoff of the baton. So for the ethics, for the revolving loan fund, that's the direction I think
Yeah,
is
but-
appropriate for tonight.
If I could just comment on that, the main thing from the ethics report is a local law, which obviously we're not going to be able to act on tonight. There is another item which was submitted to the board, which is a fairly straightforward procedure for the board to, how they're going to handle the disclosure forms
Right.
that the ethics board has never looked at before, but the code says they're supposed to. And so perhaps the board, if they don't want to do that procedure, should do some procedure because they're coming up on June. If they don't do it tonight, then they ought to do it. That procedure, some procedure at the first meeting in June, so that this is carried out the way it's supposed to be. That's all.
If they elect no procedure, but you should,
Right.
I just want to know what, if, I just wanted to hear, what, if any action they might or might not take.
Wait, did Stuart answer your question?
Huh?
We'll just put it up front. Is there any other public comment? Yeah, Julie?
I just want to make one comment for the record that Kurt Laval has been great to work with, by the way, on the committee, and it's quite possible he sent me the law and I missed it, so I don't want to throw him under the bus and think that.
No one thought you were, don't worry.
Okay, so just that.
Thanks, Julie.
That's very sweet of you.
And I would just like to say that I don't feel that way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment?
No, not that.
Jeff?
Is that done?
I'm just speechless.
So, and you make many speeches. I'm speaking as Jeff Logan, a business owner in the village of New Paltz. Number 9, the discussion on the village code regarding peddling and soliciting. I just want to make comments on that. For peddling and soliciting, I made comments on it when it was first introduced, so I just want to make some more comments on that.
Did you want to make them now, or did?
Well, I don't know if you're going to open it up because
We hope that people would come when we discuss this and discuss it with us when it is a part of the agenda, because that was the intent, is to have an open discussion.
So maybe you want to hold off until we're in that mind frame?
Let's trade number 9 with number 7.
So Craig is right here.
No, Craig, no, I want to keep Craig at...
We're down to only one agenda item someone's not here for. You realize that,
Craig
right?
at 7.
All right.
Then I will hold my comments except for that with Craig Chapman's...
Just try to steal them.
Yes, with Craig Chapman's business, his neighbors with us at Water Street Market, and I do fully support him continue to do it. We see both the people that use his kayaks in the market, as you can tell with the mud about them, life jackets. So I would support allowing Mr. Chapman to continue to use the Sojourner Park. And I look forward to discussing number 9, which we move to number 8, I hope.
Okay.
I agree with Mr. Chapman's doing a heck of a job. People like him.
Plenty that wasn't done.
I'm sorry, but people like him. People come into the honor, everybody's happy.
No, we will not give you a free ride in a car.
Those days are done for me anyway, but anyway, I think it's fun.
Thanks. Any other public comment? John?
Guys, I gotta give my little thanks speech. I just wanted to say, first of all, this was a great, exciting election for me, for sure. And I thank everybody for participating. I thank the village for really getting out there and really expressing themselves and, and voting and making a decision. I want to thank Katie and Alberta for running just a professional and really superb election. I really appreciate their effort. It was a huge effort, I can tell you that much. I also wanted to thank Rebecca Roxler and Don Kerr and Tom Rocco and Roddy for also participating in this great election. Rebecca and Don really did an outstanding job in running the election and getting their ideas out there, and for that I really congratulate them, because that was not easy, considering under the circumstances. And I've been through that, and I thank you for adding more options and giving the electorate more options for this election. That really helped ensure that this election was a really interesting participating, just because of your participation. Thank you. Pretty much that's what I had to say. And I want to thank the board for supporting the election. I want to also thank Brian and Stuart for really being great trustees. And I want to wish you both just all good things and a good life and healthy and just everything that you might both want that you should have in your life. And thank you for your time and your sacrifice. And also, for standing up to power. And that wasn't easy, but I hope that you could all, five of you, become friends after this and learn from this experience. Let's turn lemon into lemonade, right? With that, thank you very much. Again, thank you all for what we've been through, and let's keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other public comment?
Just to say,
Yes, please.
For number 7, about the continuation of the tours agreement with the village, and that's fine. And been there a long time. And of course, thanks Stu and Brian for their service. So, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
I have an announcement.
Yes, please. It's that time. Announcements by the board as well.
Rebecca would like to say
Oh, Rebecca, sorry. Thank you.
Hi, Rebecca Roxler, speaking as village resident. I also would like to thank Stuart and Brian for the years of service that they've given to the village. I emailed them both today, maybe haven't had a chance to respond, but I would like to sit down with you at some point and go over your liaisonships, projects that you worked on in the village, and I also would love if the board would give the village a moment just to maybe give some feedback on your experience, any thoughts on the projects that you worked on, just that sort of almost like a state of the state at the end of your term. Thank you. Thank you again for your service.
Thank you, Rebecca. I have responded to your email.
And I'd like to add that while Stuart and Brian know they will be missed, I look forward to working with you, Rebecca, on various projects, and welcome you. Thank you.
As do I. I don't know if you were here when I said it, but I was thinking that it's the first time we've had a female majority on this board, and how cool is that?
You were sick and didn't hear
No, actually, it's the second time. Vicky, Rebecca, and Julia Walsh was the first majority. Yeah.
All right. Well, second time ever. Still cool.
This time.
It will be momentous this time.
Yes, I agree.
All right, any other public comment? Should look up when I say that. All right, any announcements by the board?
I have an announcement, and then I would request after my announcement, in light of what happened, that we take a 5-minute break. And I would like to find out if our village attorney can join us.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll see what the motion says. So your announcement, please, first.
Okay. Very exciting news. As you know, we have a very active Shade Tree Commission in the last 2 years, and they've been doing all sorts of exciting things in the village of New Paltz. And next Tuesday night, between 6 and 8 o'clock, we are having a tree giveaway for village residents. you must promise to plant them in the streetscape, which means 20 feet, okay? If you've lost trees in the streetscape, if you know one is sick and is going to probably die and be removed, we encourage you to come and avail yourselves of, we have oodles of red oaks. We have some specialized trees like American plum and crabapple, and we will have instructions to tell you how to care for the special trees, and we will ask you to let us occasionally come visit your tree to make sure it remains healthy. But it is a fabulous idea, and the Shade Tree Committee has been working on this. The Shade Tree Committee is donating, and Blue hasn't chosen which one he wants, but a tree had to be removed in the first block of North Oakwood, and we asked Blue if he would like the Shade Tree Commission to give him a tree to replace the oak that had the maple that came down, and he said yes. So it's a really nice collaborative effort between the DPW and the Shade Tree Commission and the community of New Paltz. For those of you who don't know, we planted over 40 trees on Arbor Day, and let me tell you, it was fun.
It was really fun. And a class from the Waldorf School came and helped us. 5th grade, I think.
So
it's awesome.
Please, next Tuesday night, come if you really want to help beautify the village and keep it beautiful in the streetscape. We urge you to come and help us help you.
Tell me again the date, time, and place.
It's in the parking lot, right this parking lot at Village Hall between 6 and 8 o'clock next Tuesday night, June 4th.
Next Tuesday?
Yes. June 4th.
It must be
No.
2 weeks.
It's a week from Tuesday.
Not this coming Tuesday, June 4th, which is a week, 2 weeks from yesterday.
How did they get the trees?
Where did the trees from?
Oh, the chair of the Shade Tree Commission has been nurturing trees, one in the gardens, and then moved them up as they got bigger to a plot at the college. And some Shade Tree Commission members have donated trees. And so it's just 100, we got 100 red oaks from DC. And so it's very exciting.
That's great.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So it's a great commission, and so if you want to join the Shade Tree Commission, you're invited. All right.
That's awesome.
Sally, that's awesome, but to your beginning of your statement, I would request, as somebody sitting here, for you not to take a break and call the attorney at this time. I feel that it will be derailing while the rest of us are here. This conversation should be done with your attorney on attorney hours, not in the middle of a meeting.
Well,
just because of a comment does not mean the rest of us sit here.
Well, I don't mean to.
We all have an agenda.
But this is very shocking.
Okay.
Not really.
No,
We
it's
talked
her
about it
comment.
last week about trying to have him removed from office
It's a
because of the same
comment.
thing.
It's a comment.
It's the exact
from a
same thing you've been
person.
saying.
If you want to.
Well, no, what we were saying was that you don't live in the village, so you may. This is saying that you voted illegally. It's two different things.
Sure it
I
is.
mean,
I mean, it is.
Well, I'm just asking.
But we'll see how the motion goes, Deb.
Okay,
How's that? Thank you.
I'm just putting this request that this meeting is not stopped to call an attorney.
Thank you. Are any other board announcements?
And actually, I have it is, and it actually is a community announcement, because we did miss it, is Moriello Pool is going through quite a few substantial upgrades on pumps and valves, and I want to thank everyone on the village board for also, giving money for that. The pump and valves do need to be ordered. They're not something that come off the shelf, so they are scheduled to be delivered to the town again. The end of the story is we will not be opening up Memorial Day weekend. It's not going to be possible. So it looks like the earliest we're going to be able to open would be the weekend of June 8th. So we will miss the first 2 weekends. at Memorial Pool, unfortunately. But these are upgrades we need to do. We have over $40,000 we can spend fixing pump upgrades, along with there's been a lot of repair work done also in both the men's and women's locker rooms. And there's been repairs done to the concession area, and there's also been some ADA work that we've advanced on some sidewalks and getting some walks in. So it does not look like we're going to make the goal that we originally set. We're going to do Memorial Day weekend. So we're going to miss the first 4 days we originally are open. And also, unfortunately, county pool is not scheduled to be open, I don't believe, until I follow the post online and get I think it's the third week of June today. So thank you everyone for your consideration, and thank the board for helping us pay for all this, because it's a lot of money, and unfortunately you won't see all of it up front. Most of the work is in the pump house and in the valley, so thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Stuart and Brian, you were going to say something, I think?
Stuart, did you have a speech?
Yeah, I thought someone had a speech.
Well, I considered some remarks, but then I thought no one wanted to listen to me for 2 hours.
Well, you've been on the board for 2 years, so an exit interview is not such a bad idea, right?
But I guess I can boil it down to a few things that I would say. I think it's important when people are giving community service, both as volunteers and members of the community and elected officials, that we have certain civility that takes place at the meetings. And over the last several months, there have been a lot of tough meetings as far as comments and so forth. And so many times it's not so important is what you say, is how you say it. And I would urge for the future, obviously we can't all agree on everything, that wouldn't make sense, but I think we should all agree to present things politely and to show respect to other people.
It's not your position to read her other text messages, Brian. Then just give the phone back to the village clerk.
So,
I don't know what the big deal is here. Sorry, Stuart. Please.
That's not a problem. Another thought that I had is that in a democracy, it's really important to give everybody a chance to say whatever they want, and we have gone out of the way, particularly the mayor has gone out of the way to let everyone say whatever they want all the time, which sometimes takes us into public comment of 2 hours, and that's fine. But I would say that sometimes you can have an illusion that there's a wave of feeling out in the community because maybe 5 or 10 people that come and speak every time or write letters to the paper and speak on the camera, which is certainly their right to do, and they should be welcome to do that. But there are other people out there that might feel differently, and I think that whoever is watching it or reading it in the paper should, if they're interested, make it their duty to find out what the real facts are before they decide and are swayed one way or the other. I guess I'll leave it at that, and I have plenty of thoughts, but I'm sure we all do. But I think, just to touch on consolidation a moment, not consolidation per se, but the whole idea is that we have some severe problems governance-wise. We're 2 municipalities. We have the federal and state government ratcheting down the money. And you can see that in the not-too-distant future, there's going to be some big problems. So maybe the suggestions that various committees and groups have made are not the way to go, but we have to go someplace, because if we defeat all the ideas, the problem hasn't gone away. And it behooves everybody, I hope, in the community to come out and try to solve that problem. Otherwise, 20 years from now, it's going to be a worse problem. And, we don't want to get into a situation like the schools had, where they may have kicked the can down the street so many times that when they come up to the voters, well, we'd like $50 million and $20 million of interest on that, the community couldn't stand it. So we have an opportunity with the government to try to and get support to rewrite how we govern ourselves. So we ought to work together to make that happen somehow, whatever the plan is. And I'm not pushing one plan over another, but some plan, because otherwise you're going to have a problem. And while in a democracy, everyone has the right to speak and come out and complain, it's kind of like I was saying the other day, it's like you buy your ticket to the baseball game, then you have the right to swear at the umpires and all that. But I don't think we ought to have that attitude about, how we govern ourselves. Because, yes, you have the right to complain about things, but I think that part of democracy is you have to have the responsibility then to step forward and do your part to work together to come to a solution that's good for everybody. And I hope that this kind of atmosphere we've had in the last few weeks will die off and everyone will want to work together, realizing that everyone's not going to agree with your point of view all the time, but there's got to be a way to deal with that successfully, because we all love this place and we shouldn't be spending our time fighting. We should be spending our time working together to make it better. So that's my wish for the community, and I wish the next board well and hope they can work together to make things happen. I mean, sometimes when you see the fighting over a few of the issues, you don't realize that a lot of good work is going on in other issues that doesn't get the notoriety. And over the last few years, there have been quite a few things that have been improved and changed, and I'm sure that'll continue. So if everyone has the right attitude, then I think we can make progress. So good luck. Thank you. It's been an honor to serve the people. Thank you.
Any other board announcements? Any other board announcements?
So I guess this is
You wanted to do the follow-up, huh?
Brian, what do you got?
This was a huge mistake. Not serving, but letting Stuart speak before me. There's nothing I can say. No, I think what Stuart touched on with the loud voices versus all the voices in the community. I don't know, it's not necessarily an easy job doing this. You're up here and you have to make decisions for a lot of people, and you have to try to take everyone's feelings and thoughts and desires into consideration. Recently someone brought up what have I done? What has been my contribution over the last 4 years? And I kind of thought about it, and I think that the best contribution that I can say I've done is being here and trying my best to look at things through an objective lens. And every issue that came to the table, I tried to think of what's best for the community and not for a particular constituency. And I just tried to really just act in the best interest of everyone. And obviously I'm only human and we're only human, and so you don't necessarily always do that, but that was my attempt, and I think that's one of the most important things I brought to the table. And over the weekend, actually, I was kind of like I was patrolling around on the internet, and I ran into some hostility things, and kind of got me upset. And I was walking downtown, and I ran into a member of the community who I really respect, and she brought that to my attention, and she said to me, like, no, like, she said she would be mad at me if she wasn't so pleased with everything I did. And I said, well, are you mad? She said, 'cause you're leaving. And she basically said to me that, she reminded me of that was my role, and she really thanked me for it. And she said that there are a lot of people out there who felt the same way, and so I hope that everyone can try to do that down the road, and I know you all do. And I guess while I have the opportunity to speak, I guess I want to thank everyone who like took time with me and helped me grow and learn and try to do my best job. And you know, everyone here at the village and everyone who lives in the village, you know, I obviously could not have done it alone. And I really appreciate it. And I think, you know, I've grown in a lot of ways. And yeah, I mean that's really it. I hope moving forward that this place continues to be great. I know it will. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just very appreciative. This experience has changed me, and I hope that I've done something to change this place. So thank you. Thank you everyone on the board for serving with me.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
I might as well do this now and invite you all to a little party after the board meeting, a coffee and cake reception. And
It's not going to be a long one. Don't worry.
No, and we're not calling the attorney. We already have the response. But on behalf of, I'm going to say on behalf of the community and the village of New Paltz, the board members would like to thank you and would like to thank you, Stuart, for your service and for all the fun disagreements we had. And we hope, as Jonathan said, we hope there is a life after the village board.
Thank you all.
Open them. They keep everyone in suspense over there.
To know what
Oh.
See, they can still fill it at your store, Deb.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's awesome.
You can put your honey water in it.
If I could only drink beer, it'd be great.
It's good stuff.
All right.
Thank you very much.
We usually do take a break at about 9 for 5-10 minutes, so we're going to try to get through as much as we can in a half hour, get people home. Though we did have a question from the audience that got cut off, so Katie, would you please read the text you got from the village attorney? Since it was brought up earlier to call the attorney.
Give me 1 second. I contacted the village attorney while things were going on and asked him if he could either come here or call into and explain that Mrs. Ganskin had given us the paperwork calling for the removal of the mayor. And the response from the village attorney is that he can't come in because he's too far away. But here's the deal. Mayor can only be removed as a result of court action or pursuant to a court determination unless he chooses to step down, which is what all the board members saw from my phone a few minutes ago. So I'm quoting directly from Mr. Ariel.
And I choose not to step down. So moving on, Mr. Chapman, you want to bring us up to speed? What are you at since last year? We almost got this through last year.
Yes.
But we didn't quite make the goalpost.
We did.
But it was right at the end of the season, I think, right?
It was a little bit later than had, but this year we're doing good. We got Memorial Day coming up. I'm guessing that you guys, on your guys' part, I believe the village...
Just a sec, I'm sorry, I forgot this part. What Craig is here for, I know, hold on, I'm explaining, is Craig owns a kayak rental place. Then you got to wait for a second. We're not on this agenda item now, I mean, you got to
But
wait.
you don't articulate, you couldn't hear what the last sentence was.
Okay, I know, but for people who are watching at home, Craig would like to rent kayaks at still at Sojourner Truth Park?
Yes, sir.
So you can rent the kayaks right on the river.
Yeah.
So that's what this is about. So the end of last season, we got to an agreement, but not enough to take advantage of it. What do you propose for this year?
The same thing. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the village attorney has basically changed the dates, making everything active for this year. I will just briefly say last year was a great year. Had about 200 boats in the water in all, which I thought was very successful. People loved it. The community seemed to love it as well. I'm there every day to help people in and out of the water. If I am not renting you a boat, that doesn't mean I'm just standing there watching you. I feel like it's a great community service in there. The area down there is beautiful. If you have not got down to Sojourner Truth Park, it's a beautiful area. I believe it can always be better. Every year that I'm down there, which hopefully will be for many years, I believe that the place can be better, maybe a farmer's market or something. It can be usable space and it can attract people. Yes, it does flood, but we can take those precautions, and hopefully, if anybody has any interest in
Luckily,
making
you
that
rent
a-
boats.
Luckily, I rent boats.
I see exactly.
But with that, absolutely, I've lived in New Paltz my entire life, and I know, and I've shared this with the board before, that the sewer system obviously eventually will need to be updated, replaced. We cannot continue to grow and have that be a problem. And my thought is, with the growth of my business and the growth of the quality down there by the river, you can raise funds to meet that cost directly. So that is something that I'm hoping to work on in the future. As of right now, I'm still small potatoes. I am not making big money. The last year, the contract was approved. I hope we can approve it again this year.
But what consideration, let me just cut you off because
Yes.
we do have a somewhat of a long agenda. So the consideration is absent from what I'm looking at. Are you looking at the same dollar
Same-
figures last year? Which was
same-
what?
Same thing. It was 5% of the gross, which
I just
you
pulled it up
guys
and-
potentially before wanted 10% of the net, which would have netted you $0 last year. It may have netted you $0 this year. I bought the best boats. I have pictures of them on Facebook and online, and it's really a big setup down there. I encourage you. I'm there every Saturday from 10 to 5, and there's a big trailer with lots of kayaks, and I can put basically 20 people in the water at one time. So I am proposing the same situation. And if you guys have any questions for me, I would love to hear them. Otherwise, I would hope to.
Well, for discussion's sake, I'll move this at consideration of 5% gross. Is there a second?
I'll second that for
All right.
purpose of discussion at least.
What do you got, Sally?
You did pay the 5%.
Yes, everything was paid.
Accounted
You guys,
for.
on the contract, it says at the beginning of the year. I waited until after tax day.
Right, it was July
So if
11th.
that's cool with you guys, as I said, right after tax day, I paid that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's everything. Everything went well last year. I feel like it's going to work out very well. So.
I support the,
Any other discussion?
No, I support it. I just can't find the copy of our. Maybe we only talked about it, and I never received the final copy of the agreement, because the one that's coming up in my email is just.
I'm happy with 5%
But
gross,
I'm-
even if the
I'm
last
happy
one was
with
a little
that
bit, a point or two above
you
or below
amended,
that.
you amended.
No, but
Was
this
it
one doesn't include any of that, so I just,
In your
you know.
motion, you amended that the 5% be.
Yes, yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. Is I'm fine not even worrying about what was last year because 5% seems a fair.
It was 5%.
It was
last
5%
year.
last year.
Okay.
We approved it July 11th.
Right.
That's why he got such a late start.
Right. So is there any, was there something in particular you're looking for, Ariana?
No, I just wanted to look at it.
Okay.
I thought
Any
that would be
other,
important
any other
since
discussion
It wasn't in our packet.
while
But no,
Ariana's
that's
looking?
fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Did you give
Look
us
forward to it.
this on the
Thanks.
table?
All right.
That's okay.
So what are we doing next? Peddling and soliciting? Oh, yeah, Aaron, no, that was about this last.
Because that's just.
Just in
Aaron
here,
asked what the end of the.
I received it, and was that to me?
Oh, you have? I did.
All right, what do we want next?
Number 7.
Ethics is fast. These are the,
Yeah.
let's bang these out then, let's do that then. We're gonna do the ethics and get Ira home here and
All
Stuart
right,
done with this
you
presentation.
recall, I think it was February 27th or so, there was a large report from the Ethics Board, well, a little history, the Ethics Board hadn't been constituted and hadn't met during the whole last 4-year term, so we reconstituted, we filled the 5 spots, one of which is a trustee who actually is a member of the board as opposed to being the liaison like on other things. So there are several meetings, and the ethics board is up for business when they have to be and has been for several months. But there were several issues that were brought before in the report to the village board, all of which were approved. So one of them was to use a new disclosure statement, which is kind of based on the town disclosure statement, but it's somewhat changed, and that was approved. But there's something in our code that says the ethics board will review all the disclosure statements, and of course, that hadn't been happening. So one of the things that the board, which met Monday night, dealt with, and you should have a proposal here on the table about how that'll happen. In a nutshell, the treasurer will get these disclosure statements from everybody annually in June, the way she's been doing before with the shorter statement that we had. She'll get a copy of those to the ethics board by the end of June. By the end of July, the ethics board will report to the treasurer and the village board that they have reviewed all of those, and if there were any issues raised, they'll report that too. And then during the year, if someone else comes onto the commission, then it'll be a matter of 30-day period to do the same thing. And so that's the proposal. Now, we don't have to act on that tonight, but the board should act on the first meeting in June, I would say, so the treasurer knows where she stands about dealing with this, because this is kind of new, at least new for lately, and there should be a procedure. So that's one thing. The other thing is the ethics board felt that our existing code allows only for complaints to be made through an employee of the Village of New Paltz. And the board didn't think that that made much sense, because maybe the complaints are about the people who are employees of the Village of New Paltz, and they wouldn't, send a complaint to the board. And so when they reported that out to the village board, that they think that any, resident or someone who owns a business in the village should be able to make a complaint directly to the board said that's a good idea, come up with a local law. And we had already checked, as is allowed by the code, with the village attorney, who said he didn't see any reason that couldn't be done. So in the package that you have here tonight is the proposed local law, not suggesting that you act on it tonight, but this is the whole ethics code of the village, and in the part that's in red is the new stuff about how a resident or a business owner could make a complaint. So I commend that to the new board to deal with. And
so did you want to move to table 11, 12, and 13 to the first meeting in June? I know you said no, you wanted the procedures, but honestly, I saw this an hour ago. I haven't read it. I haven't looked at it.
No, I don't see a problem with that, but I would suggest to the new board that they act on it early in June, so that it'll be handled in a timely manner. I mean, you can do whatever you want with it, but that's what I would suggest.
Well, it requires a public hearing.
I'm talking about the procedures about, it doesn't require a public hearing. I think about how to handle a review of the disclosure statement. This local law, obviously, when the board gets to the point where it feels that it makes sense and that's what they want to do, then you'll schedule a public hearing. But as instructed, the ethics board has come up with a proposed law and it's here. And the only other thing that was on that is pending for the future is, you'll recall that our village ethics code is very narrow. It really deals with contracts and conflicts of interest of that kind. There are many codes from other municipalities that are broader and reach other things. So that would be important probably for the new ethics board to consider, and there was no opposition by the village board when the report came to them to look into that. So, but that's more of a major undertaking because there's all kinds of things that could be in there. And I guess the last thing I'll report is that it looks like we're going to have to look for another member of the ethics board, because Mr. Deal, who came and did a good job, the young fellow, is going to be moving to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and will probably be giving his letter of resignation to the clerk soon, so that come June you're going to need not only the trustee board member, but one other board member. But the other three members are willing to go forward, and I think have done an excellent job. So that's the report.
Or do you want to just finish it up with the number 13 and get all three out of the way?
So, I have a question on,
You want us to just stick with the ethics for now?
Well,
Let's stick with the ethics.
I don't have a problem, but that's a separate topic.
No one was here waiting for that one, I apologize. Sally, any question?
Well, I think that the DVA and the chamber might be interested in this status because we're meeting with them next week about the revolving loan, so they probably are interested in hearing.
So, Sally, you had a question about this?
yes, on the second page, Stuart.
Yes.
I guess of the policy, you say this, I think this all requires code change because it is part of the whole article of definitions and everything else in the code of ethics. So I believe both 11 and 12 require code change.
So you want to move to table them to our first meeting in June?
No, I move to have the attorney draft it into.
All right, I'll second that. Any discussion?
Number 12 was drafted
Number
by
11.
our attorney. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I think the first thing would be to ask the attorney if we have to do that, because it's kind of an internal procedure. The code says they got to review it, but you can decide how you're going to review it. I don't think you need a law for that.
When you quote the code,
Yeah.
I assume that when you amend the code, it has to be done by a public hearing and a law change. But
You're right, but I don't think the second one needs a change to the code, but you can ask the attorney if he agrees with me.
on the second page,
Yeah.
what is a non-municipal officer? You clearly want to add the word municipal.
Well, yeah, this was put in by the village attorney. So I think we'll have to ask him why he put that in there when you pursue this.
You know the answer.
Our main thrust was the next to the last page with a paragraph written in about who can make an inquiry. But I undoubtedly put that in there for a reason, and certainly you should ask before, as part of your discussion.
Okay. My motion still stands for calling for a hearing.
Well, your motion was to refer it to the attorney, actually.
Yeah, and then, you know,
The hearing was not part of that motion. So,
you want to, and then we can call for a hearing.
yeah, that's fine. So for his advice, that's fine. We don't actually need to make that motion,
But Stuart said this is Joe's.
No,
Number 12 is
this is
not-
from the village attorney. The other part is an internal proposal about how to handle the review, which I doubt you'll need.
Well, this is,
a
I mean,
local
this is,
law.
this is the thing with discussing things we got right as we
Yeah,
sat
no,
down, that are complicated, not simple.
No, I
So we actually don't even know what to do now because we don't know what they say.
Well, I'm not suggesting you do anything other than, this is the law that they promised, proposed law, and then you can deal with it as you wish.
Yeah,
in
and we
due
got
course.
a memo on all of this. We all discussed these things and then moving
But
forward.
not the text. That's what I'm talking
Not the
about, is
text.
discussing the particulars of where a
Right,
comma can
well,
change.
we're
the
not being
meaning.
asked to discuss it.
Okay.
Sally's asking
But
questions.
I'm also figuring out what it is we are being asked to do. So obviously the law should be tabled for one meeting. There's a motion on the floor to refer number 11 to the village attorney,
Yeah,
and that's where we're at right now. I'm just trying to figure out where we go from there.
I know.
Okay, that's fine.
number 11,
So, all right, all in favor of the motion?
We haven't had a second.
I did.
and I seconded it.
No, she made the motion, I seconded.
Oh, that's right. Where are you?
All in favor? Aye. Aye,
And
thank you.
now I'd like to move to set the hearing on number 12.
I'd actually like to read it first before we set up hearing.
Yeah,
only got
I
it
think
at
it's,
that
I
time
think it's,
tonight.
I think it's premature to do that because no one's ever seen it, but now you have something
Yeah.
to start
Can we
with.
table it to our next meeting in
No,
June?
let's just put it.
Why don't we put it on the agenda
That's
for
what I
our
mean,
first
the next
meeting in
meeting.
June?
That's what I just said.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All in favor of what?
Tabling it. We don't need a motion, but I just did that.
No, it's not being tabled, it's being put on the next agenda.
Same thing. Doesn't matter how we call
Yeah.
The
it.
actual motion is to postpone it to a particular time, if you want to know the answer.
Okay.
That's the next agenda.
Peddling and soliciting. Peddling and soliciting. There's no actual action, there's no proposal, it's just a discussion of our existing code.
We were
and
gonna have a summary of our comments, I thought.
Summary of what comments?
All the things that we had discussed, there were things that were,
All I have in the packet from anybody is the text itself.
Actually, my understanding was that today was about inviting the Downtown Business Association, Jeff Logan, asking them to come in and tell us what they think
That's
of
what
the
we were
possibility, and
supposed
then
to do.
combining all of the thoughts into whether or not what we may or may not do.
Well, that is
Hold
definitely
on.
part of what we're doing here tonight.
Well, that's apparently the entirety of what we're supposed to be doing. Is there something else that we should be doing?
We had asked for a summary of our comments
From whom?
from Katie. Did we change that within the meeting?
No, that's,
Well, that's what the minutes are for, I thought, or the video. Was there something else you were
we don't
supposed to
have
do?
minutes.
It was going to be a document that we could distribute.
I'm sorry about that. I'll make sure that's available.
Well, we've got the chamber president, representatives from downtown businesses here. You're on the agenda apparently. So, what are your thoughts on the existing peddling soliciting law that you have not read? I assume.
I know Jeff.
Jeff knows that I know because I've argued with him over it a lot.
I didn't know one even existed.
Well, what are your thoughts on peddlers and solicitors? Then this is the board wanted on the board. Yeah. And of course you too, John. But we've got 5 business owners. So. But I was hoping the organizational leaders, and then we'll get to the individual business owners, if that's all right. Mike, Julie, do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah,
They're important.
Well, Mike is at least. I don't know about Julie.
Mike is very important.
Just overall, this is really.
I'm bringing a Burger King crown for him to wear next meeting.
But just very, very briefly, just from what I understand of it, the peddlers thing sounds like the peddler that gets on the street, but the village of our size and the existing businesses that are there, and we have a lot of fairs, we have a lot of activities, particularly during the summer months. And it's one thing, like Water Street Market, they have their own little hot dog guy, out there, but it just seems that it might just take away something from the existing businesses in the sense that it's not whereas in New York City where we have a huge volume of traffic. A lot of people going back and forth, on the streets during the summertime. And to me is that maybe with very few exceptions, we have to be very careful if we have to make equivalent of what we already have. And I just think that it's going to create, for the lack of real high volume, a situation where it might just take away the overall impact of our existing businesses and people that are here every single day, paying their taxes and bringing in the people that come in to visit our facilities, and we want them to stay in the village. And I just think it just might be more of a distraction. And of course, there's ancillary issues, about where the position of cars, potential for cleanup and everything else like that. So just really sensitive that it just might be a distraction unless it's done on a very selective basis, highly selective basis.
Let me ask a question because this may focus a little bit. There's actually a related question to the B3 discussion, right? Because you've got, on the one hand, you've got the bricks and mortar businesses who, through their rent or ownership, pay the taxes that fund our salaries in the building and the paving and the snowplow and all that. You've got the peddlers, the temporary businesses like the hot dog cart, the ice cream man, whatever type of businesses that pay a fee. Though the question of whether the fee is the same proportion of of income as a bricks and mortar business, that's a whole that's a separate thing because we can always raise and lower the fees if that's the issue. But it gets back again to that theory I've heard from this. I swear, local business owners fall into only 2 categories. There's the pie is so big, and the more you slice it, the less everyone gets. Or the more business we have, it amplifies each other, and everyone makes more the more business we have. So let me ask you this, Mike: you own an ice cream shop. You don't in real life, but say you do. Does allowing an ice cream man to drive down the streets with that that kind of guy?
That's the
the good humor. Does that critically injure your stationary ice cream business? Because that's what I hear is the stationary businesses that sell goods or services close to what a peddler does will be undercut and killed by the existence of a peddler. Is that how legitimate is that concern?
I mean, they don't have any. They have so much less overhead.
Well, that's what I'm curious about the chamber, the business owners. What do you think the percentages, the ratio? How does it affect the margin? Do you not even bother to open a business, an ice cream business in a town that has an ice cream man?
There's no real answer. I mean, it's kind of nebulous, and it just don't really have a true answer to that. Maybe we never have, but it's the perception more than anything else. I just think that you're perceiving our village, the amount of people in business that they have here, is that how far do you go? And what's the intent and purpose of what we already have here, and what do we really want to do with that? I mean, to quantify it is very difficult, Jensen, and I don't know if that's a feasibility study that I just don't know if we can really get a true answer. But the thing is, what do you want to see for the village to really have as far as, the good humor truck coming down the street? Do you want one? Do you want to make an exception to do once in a while just as a novelty thing, as an experiment to enhance maybe?
I want rival fleets crawling down every street is what I want to see.
I don't know. I just don't think there's a true answer to that. It's
Well,
just-
but actually it's quantifiable, and it is quantifiable in actually our studies, but they're done in a controlled setting. The studies you can find are actually done at Walt Disney World, and the example being, they call it the $1 million popcorn stand.
You mean Celebration, their town, or the actual
No,
Walt
the
Disney
actual
World?
Walt Disney World.
Okay.
The actual Walt Disney World. So it's a controlled environment, so you can do something very easy. They own it all.
Like a mall. You can put the Sunglass Hut near certain stores and see how it does.
Exactly. So if you take the example of, and they use the example frequently, when any time anyone proposes to use any of the real estate within the park, is it a popcorn stand? In other words, can it generate $1 million? Now the point being is, if you were going to go with your point saying it generates more business, when I walk through Disney World, which has been a long time, but should I go and walk, should Jason, you and I go to Disney World?
We clearly need to have a junket, a field trip to explore this phenomenon.
Down there, you will notice that there are 2 popcorn carts. Each one of those generates $1 million. Now, to your argument, you could say, okay, then why don't they put in 5 of them in that same area, and they would then generate $5 million? Well, they don't, because you only have so much population.
But how do you get the feel of where the market saturation is?
So the market
that it's 2 but not 5.
I can actually give that to you too. So let's just take the example of downtown New Paltz. So we'll take a very, very small controlled area. I will take the area of Main Street, Platica, and North Front Street. We'll take that area, we'll extend it down and out just to Stewart's, then back along North Chestnut to Water Street Market. Very small controlled area, maybe all of a tenth of a mile, 2/10 of a mile. In that one area alone, you have 15 locations. And I'm not counting any of the restaurants, just 15 locations alone that sell soda, they sell hot dogs, they sell ice cream, or they sell a sandwich or something to go. So is there something else that anyone can picture a vending cart would sell? So we have 15 of those already in that very small area. Can anyone here picture where else you would put a cart in our community? So what you're doing is you're going to bring in a vendor. The vendor is going to want traffic. So that is where all of our traffic is in downtown New Paltz. So all they're doing is taking advantage of that traffic.
I'll give you 2 examples.
But the thing is you reach that density already. So if you keep taking away from that density, the problem is it makes everyone else suffer. And again, to Mike's point, and I did discuss this with him before, is what you're going to do is your bricks and mortar are the ones that are paying for all the infrastructure and paying for, so to speak, we're waiting for this traffic. We sit and wait. We have Deb here who has a huge brick and mortar investment, 2 huge brick and mortar investments. There are months where we sit and don't do a whole heck of a lot, and we need that traffic at that point. When you let someone else in, they're taking simply advantage of traffic that we require and need. So there are studies that show.
Jeff, I'm just, because I know John's going to talk, but I know where John's going to go. With this, and I want you to pick up on what I'm going to say, okay, with this, very quickly. Bring in 15 more restaurants. I don't care, bring in 10 more liquor stores. I'm always gonna do okay. Maybe I'm gonna do this much this year, next year I'm gonna do this much, but I stick it out every year. I pay my taxes, I pay all my employees, I deal with my overhead, I work with my other co-workers, wishing them the best during bad weather, students leaving, tourism can't come, floods. You have a nice sunny day and you're gonna let a truck just come in and pick up. I personally won't be hurt because they'll never have a liquor truck. But I think I promise you. But how do you let
Mobile wine tasting it's called.
somebody pull up a truck on a 90-degree day and sell scarves and hats for that afternoon when he sat out there all winter when nobody could come in? And so I'm telling you, my thing with the peddler's thing is, first of all, where the heck are you going to put them? And second of all, you're just going to let them just come in. If you want to open other businesses, then they have to do what we're doing. pay the taxes, pay the rent, pay the mortgage, employ the people that live in this village that spend the money in the village. Most peddlers are not going to be from this village, and they're going to take the money and go. And we're ones that are paying for the roads and the construction and the police and the fire department, and everything that you're saying is already over budgeted. We're too broke.
Wait, Ariana, then John, because they've been waiting for a while. Ariana, John, then Brian.
The only thing I was going to say in terms of a good humor truck versus a peddler and the idea of the good humor truck, they drive around
Local
a kid.
organic.
What?
Local organic ice cream.
Oh yeah. Aside from the fact that I'm anti-high fructose, but a kid will run out of their house when they hear the song, and that kid is not necessarily already on Main Street, and I think that's a big difference. Whereas a peddler, and for where this came from, people have been applying. That's why we're looking at this. People have been applying, and it's basically impossible the way the code is written. So we're saying either we should say you cannot peddle, or we should figure out how to allow it. But that's why we brought all of you here, is to help us decide that as background. But so the idea that these peddlers are going to be right outside an ice cream shop that's on Main Street is, you know, what are we doing? Yeah, but so I think that is you know, to speak to the idea of a truck that goes in a much, you know, maybe they hit New Paltz, maybe they hit Poughkeepsie, maybe, you know, they spend half their day everywhere, and maybe they should also be required to have a permit to come to our community. Is the other
Wait, Jeff, I'm sorry, Jeff. John has been waiting, and Brian, then we'll get back to you. John?
First of all, we live in a free society. We live in a system where we allow and we encourage competition. And competition, for example, if there was one shoe store in one town, but another town had 7 shoe stores on the same block, if you were a woman, where would you go to buy shoes? You would go to where there's a shoe market, and that's where people are going to go and buy shoes. You can't be afraid of competition. Any good mall or any good retail area that focuses on retail. Look, all the malls, they all have push carts. Let's not forget, Mr. Revlon started in a push cart on Pitkin Avenue. Let's not forget, Abraham and Strauss started with a little push cart. What is a push cart and what does a peddler mean? Let's take the name peddler away. They could be your sons and your daughters. And if you come from a poor home, you're looking for an opportunity to get into the marketplace, to make a stand, not to take away from somebody else, but to use your ingenuity. If you want to take the opportunity of having a push cart and stand in the hot sun, or stand in the cold, or if it rains, it stands in the rain, why should we take the opportunity? These are incubator businesses. These are businesses, as I said before, that can start where people have nothing. I'm talking to you, Jason. I'm talking to you, Sally. I'm talking to you, Brian, Stewie, Ariana. These are the businesses that give our young people and our senior citizens and our middle-aged residents opportunity, real opportunity to grasp a hold of what we have here. The more that they generate business, like you said, I believe, and in my experiences always has been, the more it generates business to everybody, it just brings more people and more people. The Costa Brothers hot dog stand, I really don't believe they're taking away, because while they're taking, they're adding. Now, I never really walk into the Water Street Market that much and buy a lot of stuff, but I have to tell you, I always stop at Costa's and I buy a hot dog, and they're great. And he's the only one that has a really good square paniche. What I'm saying is he's offering something and services that nobody else in the village, to me, is offering, and I'm going to him for services. And I don't want to beleaguer it, but I just want to really, really impress the fact this is what you call grassroots opportunity, and we must give small people, people that don't have the money or the wherewithal to afford a storefront or whatever the case might be, because first of all, even if they're outside, it's still costing them something. If somebody said they want to come to my lot and say, hey, can I sell something there, right? I'm still going to charge them $30, $40 a day because I have to maintain the lot, I have to keep things clean, I have to re-gravel. So if they're paying even $50 a day, 50 times 30, that's $1,500 a month. They're paying rent. they have to collect sales tax. They have to pay that sales tax. It's just you're giving a small person an opportunity that does not have the ability or the financial ability, the opportunity to start from small. I started while I was in college. I started in a small little flea market. I don't know what I would have. I'm not talking from you. No, I mean, I'm not trying to.
Don't make me pound on the table.
I just want to finish what I'm saying.
John and Deb both.
I just want to finish what I'm saying.
Excuse me, John, but please wrap it up. We're running
I'll
late.
wrap it up. I just want to say I started very small. I went to college. I also could have went and received my master's, and I could have went into economics, which I have my degree, or psychology. I have a double degree. But I started very small when I was 19, and I didn't even realize it, but I made an opportunity for myself, just like Abraham Strauss and the Revlon and this one.
All right, when you mentioned Revlon twice, you're starting to circle back on. Let's cut it off, John.
I appreciate what everybody here has to say, but please, it's antiquated thinking. The more we create activity and excitement in this village, retail-wise, the more people that are going to come here. And please don't take that opportunity away from small people.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Brian, and then Jeff, and then John.
I'm after Brian.
Yeah, Brian, Sally, Jeff, John.
Okay. One thing I can think about. One thing I would make a note of is we just approved the kayak business for another year, and the gentleman does not have a brick and mortar shop, and giving him the ability to operate out of our public parks has given him the opportunity to start a business and create a benefit for the community. Fortunately, it's also something that not everyone else is doing. So, I mean, there's not really a conflict of interest, so whatever the case may be. But it's something to think about. When we did discuss this, part of our notes from the following meeting was that we don't want to encourage, ice cream wagon to come and park in front of the ice cream shop or on Main Street, because that doesn't really make sense, and it would be taking away from the other people who are paying taxes and are sticking it out throughout the year, and that's important. We want to protect the people who are here and working and bringing business to the village. And to the point of that a lot of the people who are peddling won't live in the village and take their business out of the village. Not everyone who owns a shop in the village necessarily lives in the village. So that is something to think about. The one other point, I don't necessarily know how I feel about having peddlers on municipal streets, but the idea of the farmers market, or the idea of having, on people who have lands, having small artists shops and things like that, I mean, that gives people the ability to create notoriety for themselves and grow their business. And maybe eventually, because they're known here in New Paltz and because they like New Paltz, they open up a shop here in New Paltz. So, I mean, it's very tricky, and I think, we all kind of decided at the last meeting that we didn't want to take away from others. We don't want to have, a cheese cart, across the street from Water Street Market, because that's not really fair. But at the same time, we should allow people to somehow find a way to get a start. And so we're going to have to find some sort of mixed ground, I think. It's not necessarily, it's definitely not black and white, but, we can see where it works, and we can see also where, now we have a hot dog cart, hot dog shop, another hot dog shop, hot dog cart in front of P&G's at night. So, we're kind of getting saturated with hot dogs at this point. So I don't know, but
But they're all making money.
I think they're all making money. Now again, the question that other people have brought up, how many hot dogs is the community going to eat? If we put in 30 hot dog stands, is that going to mean that everyone wants hot dogs all the time? I don't really know. I think at some point, there's only a finite amount of hot dogs we can I could probably top out at 2 at a time, and then I'm hot dog guy, and I have stomach cake.
And how long will you walk for a hot dog?
Brian, or no, sorry, John.
Okay.
Were you done, Brian?
Yeah, I think I covered most of the stuff that we talked about at the last meeting.
The connection to another local business.
Oh, that's a good point. And the other thing we discussed was possibly having local businesses, or the connection to, for the example of Water Street Market, that's their private property. They allow the Costner brothers on there. That works out really well. Having that's just a random hot dog guy walking up and down the street, maybe not as is fair. We also talked about possibly letting vendors come out onto the sidewalk during summer days or something like that, but people who own the businesses come out. So that might be an opportunity. It also might block the sidewalks, so.
I don't know the clock of that.
Deb, not your turn yet. Sally, you want to go on?
I'm going to disagree. The only peddler cart that I would allow in public streets is one that peddles civility and respect for each other and no bugs. But other than that, I am opposed to peddling on public streets.
Yeah.
I believe there's a big difference between private property and public property.
What about public parks? What about public parks?
That's a whole nother issue. And I believe that if Debbie wants to rent space for somebody to sell potato chips while she's having a wine tasting party, that's fine. I believe if John wants to rent a space down for popcorn sale, that's fine. That's between John and the peddler. I do not support peddlers on public property, on public streets, and I am opposed to door-to-door solicitation. I do not think it is safe, and I believe if a business person such as Jeff with his chin shop wanted to request that he be allowed, that he could, because he's at Water Street, have a cart out in front, that's fine. But I don't think outsiders who, I think, I don't disagree with you about growing, but I also think that the corollary to that is exploitation.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't think with this community or our merchants who have worked very hard to build their businesses should be exploited by outsiders. I really strongly feel that way.
And our
So
sidewalks
I'm not supporting the peddlers.
Sidewalks aren't even wide enough on us.
But it's got to be private property, and if
What about the parks? What about
now
the parks?
vendors,
Yeah. I'm
vendors,
with you.
Don't tell anybody.
vendors. Hold the phone, it's my turn. I think vendors at events, which are not commercial anyway. Vendors at events such as Unity Day or Gay Pride.
125th.
That is a very 125th. It's a very different thing. It's a one-time event to support and really, in a sense, a marketing device to attract people to the event. And I think that kind of vending for either, fundraising or, in a park, one-time event, once a year, that's fine. I think we ought to have that.
What about the kayaks? What about the kayaks?
I don't consider the kayak a peddler.
Kayaks are not peddlers.
Well, it's a small business. It's
It's a
someone
small
who's
business.
operating, he's operating without a brick and mortar.
No,
I mean, it's not like he has to.
That wasn't Debbie's point. Debbie's point when she used the term brick and mortar, I believe she was talking about those people who have established businesses in the community. I mean, a golf course is not brick and mortar.
Well,
Okay.
it is. They own a piece of land. It doesn't have to be an
Right,
actual
they're
building.
using it.
But I'm saying a plot of land, like having to take care of that and pay taxes on that. The gentleman, I mean, he's paying a small fee to us. It's almost like a peddler's permit or some sort of permit, but he's not paying taxes on like a stake in the
I thought we
village.
were talking, so
I think it's a different-
I think it's so different, like
I do
night
too.
and day. I thought we were talking about the village itself and the businesses. I did not at all consider him a peddler, and I'd like that stated.
Well,
I just
not peddler. Let's forget the word peddler. Small business without a brick and mortar location.
I think, as far as I'm concerned, he's got his stake in there, and it's his. And it's just because it's already grandfathered or whatever you want to say. But I really just thought we were talking about Main Street in the village or those connecting streets, Church and that where the businesses lie. That's what I was concerned
But
with.
I do understand what Brian was saying, because, like, what if someone wanted to come in and rent space at the village parking lot to rent bikes? Or,
Okay.
and then you have a bike.
Julian, there were actually other people waiting to speak, so let's get back to that. Sally, are you done with what you were saying?
I'm done. I made my.
Jeff and then John. Jeff, you got something?
Just one area I made a interesting comment, which is like the ice cream truck. The problem with the ice cream truck is if you ever watch them, they're going to go to where the sales are. So, for example, I had an ice cream truck, I would go to the ball fields.
Right.
Now, I could take you within walking distance of here, I could walk you to 3 places that do soft serve ice cream that would substantially lose a lot of sales. We'd all see them lined up. They come into the community, and then they become part of our community.
Right.
Those brick and mortars are critical. We see the same kids then walking around in our town with their parents, with the ice creams in their uniforms. I'm sure Jeff sees them come into.
I hope not.
Come into the Gilded Otter in their uniforms, still walking about. And then it's all the services that we are, your brick and mortar pays for that provide this community. And again, very valid points. What do you do with then all their refuse? The Cosner brothers are a good example, but they also do pay rent to help support Water Street Market. They also do pay into our common fee. We have a common fee on top of our rent. They pay into that. There are services that they do. The Sally's point is absolutely right. Take Rosendale, for example. Rosendale goes from an average weekend of a couple thousand visitors, and they have the Rosendale Street Festival, or what's the festival?
Yeah, Rosendale Street Festival.
And they bring in 8,000 people. So exactly, that's a great example of you're bringing in vendors for various specific reasons. You're going to draw people from a much larger, from probably 30 different zip codes. We're trying to survive most of the time from just a very small area. And then when we get larger groups in, yes, you can bring other vendors and won't affect us, but on a sunny weekend, you're there. And that same example I gave, 10 out of those 15 places sell hot dogs. I don't know, to Brian's point, I don't know how many hot dog vendors you can get, but in that same area, 10 of those locations are selling hot dogs. I don't know what the critical mass is, but.
Thank you, Jeff. John?
I'm assuming that we're primarily talking about food vendors. I don't think there's much discussion about vendors on the street selling cell phones. And to me, it seems that the vendors that come in are temporary and they're focusing on the busiest period of time, which is the summer, and that they're cherry picking by taking some of that business away. And they're not here during a period of times when there's slow business here anymore where the other business is. Some communities to resolve this problem have dedicated areas where food trucks and mobile vendors are allowed to congregate. The town or the community supports that area in the sense that they provide for trash pickup. Everybody has an inspector who says everybody has to have a health permit, everybody's got to meet the code, and they advertise that this is where mobile vendors are going to be. Some towns call it food truck rodeo grounds, and then people are allowed to go there. As a way of thinking, because these people are going to congregate in the summer when we have the greatest amount of business. They're going to be primarily food vendors. They're going to be competing during the peak traffic times. Something to consider might be to find an area where you can dedicate like a parking lot out here on Saturday and Sundays. I'll let you know if you want to have a food truck, you want to have a mobile vendor cart for food of some nature. This is the area where it's going to be. It's going to be open between this hour and this hour. It's going to cost you this much. You got to have inspection. You got to bag your trash, and on and on and on. And that way, if they wanted to come to you and they wanted to get a permit, and you did feel comfortable about having them compete directly with established businesses, then you could say this is the alternative. In that respect, you're not turning them away, but you're also not providing them an advantage over the established businesses who may count on those peak days, those peak times, so that they can make up for the period of time during January, February when they may not have the traffic. Just a thought.
Thank you, John. Yeah, please.
I think Julie made a good point about the bicycles in the parking lot. Like, we have 2 bike shops that rent bikes out to people who want to come out here and do whatever they want around the community. Now, let's say someone says, hey, I want to start like a bike rental business. Do you mind if I use your municipal park? I'm not saying that I don't agree with the kayaks. I like the kayaks. But, I mean, the point is, okay, so now we've got a guy who's down at the municipal lot on North Chestnut or something like that selling bikes. Are people going to go to the bike shop or they're just going to grab a bike and tally off? And now are businesses who pay rent, pay all those things, suffering because of that?
Well, I see it slightly differently because the river is very different than the parking lot. And the accessibility to the river is very different. It's a one-place location. For the village to be in the rental business at all, okay, on a parking lot or anything like that, I would absolutely be opposed to. I am not opposed to business owners, either private land, private businesses renting to peddlers.
Okay, so
but I am absolutely opposed to peddlers on public streets.
Okay, I agree with you. We could do that. But like, okay, let's say bike lane's down at Sojourner Truth Park, and you're walking down the rail trail, and you're like, oh, bikes. You hop on and go instead of stopping at the two bike shops in town. You know what I mean? I basically believe that there is a finite amount of business, and we may spice it up and get more people to come in, but eventually there is a saturation. I think we would be taking away from.
Well, I don't disagree.
Okay.
You know.
Well, so the point of I just wanted to avoid is too much board conversations. Is the point of this was to have a discussion with the business owners. But though try to keep in mind that we are running a little bit late. Yeah. So especially if it's a matter of trying to hammer home the same point, we absorbed it. So but please, Julie.
Well, I don't think there is too much saturation personally, and I don't think as government that's your thing to decide. I mean, that's supply and demand, and I think competition is healthy. And someone does good, it brings everybody else up because then they want to do better. And I don't think there's a finite pie or pieces of the pie, But I think just like we were talking about the Gateway District, it just needs to be done wisely. So I'm hearing more curiosity, like one, the fact that we even have this influx of requests for peddler's permits is great because it means we have a vibrant, healthy downtown, and people want to be part of that. So, how can we help the downtown flourish even more? I don't think it's reached its potential at all. I think there's a lot more that can be done. But so my question is, who are the people applying for peddler permits and what opportunities are they seeing that we're not? Be curious to know. And what are you all thinking in regards to peddler's permits? So, what brought up the discussion? Do you want to loosen the regulations? And if so, where would the peddlers be going? Is it just for private property owners to be able to rent it, or more curiosity?
We have been asked to review and revise the code vis-a-vis peddlers. Now, I have my opinion, Brian has his opinion, but you are the business people who
But she asked who asked you to do it and what did it ask you to do?
Well, you just comment on.
I can speak.
Well, Ariana, why don't you?
Well, in terms of why this is even coming up, I mean, people have been applying. We got half a dozen or something like that.
Actually, we're up to 9 different types of primarily food peddling in the village that doesn't necessarily fit into the current code. And so the clerk's office came to the board and said, this is what we're being presented with. This is where it doesn't fit. Let us know where you want us to proceed.
And part of it is in the license restrictions, it restricts standing, and unless the license shall specifically provide otherwise, which means that we would have to, review them and go. We thought we could, if there's a process, we want to streamline it, but because it says unless the license shall specifically provide otherwise, a licensee shall not stand or permit the vehicle used by him or her to stand in one place at any public street for more than 10 minutes, or in front of any premises for any time if the owner or leasee of the premises object. And then it also says that it seems conflicting because then it says that you cannot vend in one fixed location in excess of 30 minutes, and you cannot be in the same location during the same business day, and you have to move basically to a quarter mile away. You can't be within a quarter mile of that same location within one business day. So essentially, this kind of precludes doing this and having it be successful in the village because we're such a small place. So it was brought before us the idea of, if we're going to allow this, let's find a way to allow it. And if we're not going to allow it, let's explicitly say that.
So then my question would be, so then where do you propose, or do they propose that they're going to go?
There is no proposal.
Right.
Right
Well,
now.
I mean, that's the thing, because I'm just trying to, in my mind, think of where this is possible, because even right now, we're having issues with the sandwich signs on the sidewalks of people getting injured. And so now, I've heard that there are going to be a lot, we're not supposed to even have sandwich signs out in front of the businesses. So where are we possibly going to fit peddlers? That's really my question.
There is not enough room on most of the sidewalks, period. Two people can't even walk down the street next to each other on some of our sidewalks. So there's definitely, that has to be taken into consideration. And to speak to John's idea, I was in Austin, Texas, and they have a food truck area. And if you want to go to a restaurant, you go to a restaurant. And if you want to go to like this food court, you could go to the food court. And so, that kind of idea, I don't know where that would go in New Paltz is the thing. But that idea could be something to look at, but I don't really, I wanted to hear from all of you before I decided myself.
In Woodstock, they have a open air.
Right, flea market.
I'm sorry. Let's wait until you're called on in the audience.
Sorry.
We've got 7 more. We've got 7 more things to talk about after this tonight. So I want people to still be.
All I wanted to say is that I think we're mixing up apples and oranges. The code enforcement regarding sandwich boards and things like that are a totally different issue than what we're trying to raise. We have been asked by our clerk to take a look at the peddler's law to see if there are changes that we believe should be made. Before we do that, we just wanted to hear from our local business people their feelings about peddlers, and we've heard.
Right, and so
Okay.
just want to say, the only reason I brought up the sandwich signs is the relation is that it's impeding pedestrian traffic and there's a safety issue. So I was just saying,
Well, my
having trouble
concern,
with that.
my concern isn't impeding pedestrian traffic as impeding the goodwill and business of our local business people. That's my concern.
I have no problem.
We'll have more conversation. This is not the last conversation about this topic. So.
But to speak to what Brian is saying, according to our code, the kayak rental company totally falls within this because it's the selling, bartering, trading, or offering to sell, barter, or trade of any goods, wares, commodities, or services. And I would consider that a service. And so that totally falls under this. And I'm not opposed to it in any way, shape, or form. And I think the fact that we have a separate contract speaks to the idea of, where it says in D, unless the license shall specifically provide otherwise, we have created a whole separate thing. But it definitely does fall under this, and if somebody were to come to us...
But it falls under D, not the other provisions.
No, it falls under all of it.
But D says that unless otherwise provided for in a license.
Right, but that's just for standing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's just him having a fixed
I agree
location.
with Jason
Yeah.
because I've read the law very carefully, and what I want the community to know is the law as it's currently written stinks, and it needs to be rewritten.
It definitely does, and it needs to be redone.
All right, so the agenda was a discussion with some business owners about the concept. We don't have a draft law, there's no proposal, there's no actual, here's what we change.
Actually, Joe did make a
see the
recommendation, and
full
we
thing.
don't, and I, for one, do not agree with the recommendation. I think we need to rewrite the whole law,
Okay.
and
But there's nothing
I'll
more
do
we
it.
have to do tonight.
For
This is
the
it's not just
public?
the preliminary discussion.
Katie, what did you need us to do in order to move forward? Wasn't there a request that you had to?
I just need some clarity from the board. Obviously, I hear exactly what's being said when somebody comes in and says, I'd like to have an ice cream cart coming down the road. I can say at this time, it's not allowed under the law, and the board is not leaning towards that. I'm perfectly comfortable when we have an event and offering a peddler's permit out for Memorial Day if we were doing something, or Ludwig Day. I'm perfectly comfortable. It's specifically what's going through my head right in a second is I am aware of someone who has requested to vend in a specific private property, and I need to know, can I let them have a permit? We, as far as I know right now.
Look, until the code is changed, whatever the code says now is what you do. There's really not a question about it at all. Until that 30 days after a new law is filed with the Secretary of State, they abide by the rules we have in the books.
I have an offer to make. As soon as the parade club is done, we'll start a peddlers club. We're going to start a peddlers club.
Parade party, by the way, now.
Huh?
Parade party, because alliteration's just better.
Oh yeah, but it's our parade event club, Park Youth Club committee. I'll offer to have a peddlers club if Julie and Teresa will come on and help me with it.
Yes, Teresa will.
I'm down.
She can speak for herself.
I know she can, but she won't say anything.
But anyway, as soon as we get, and we're almost done the parade club, but this is, I think, a very important thing to really address for the community.
So
just to speak to what you were asking about in terms of a private space, public place is defined here, and it says, as used herein shall include privately owned lands which are generally open to public access, including sidewalks, parking lots of schools, banks, gasoline service stations, shopping centers, and other retail stores and establishments. So I don't know, I think whatever the privately owned land is, it would depend on.
Well, I will be sending a follow-up email to the attorney with the specifics because it's inappropriate to discuss the specifics at the table, and I will copy you all on it.
You could also
Would you
suggest
do me a
that.
favor and also copy Teresa and Julie so they have it to look at and think about?
Not on the attorney email.
No,
Not on the attorney email, but.
No, not on.
because I'll be naming
Just get
the
them.
person and the business that is willing to have them.
You know what you could do too is tell them to come to the village board and maybe they'll get them a special special contract to do business.
I did suggest they come to this meeting.
Okay.
There's a lot in it that's conflicting, we need to clean it up.
And the other thing is I want to be very clear that the board gave permission to hold out for the month of July those who are currently holding an approved permit. So Cosner Brothers, the Flower Lady, just to make sure that we're all clear about that. So there's no question. If someone questions me later, well, why can they and I can't? I just want to reiterate that at the table.
Right. Thank you. All right. Actually, I was going to, since we usually take a break at 9, I'm going to call a 5-minute recess now. I know, and you've been complaining about it for 2 years. Let's just do it, please.
No. I was gonna say, can we just interview John before we do that, and then we'll take our break and then
John, does it
come back?
matter? You want to go in now or in 10 minutes? What's that?
He's fine.
It's fine either
Either one
way?
is fine.
All right. If you could just, let's take a break for 5 minutes and we'll come back.
Thank you.
And there's only one other thing. Jeff, I think you're interested in the Park Point Fire contract. But I figured you were staying a little longer anyway. You were interested in Park Point Fire contract, but I think you were staying a little
What's wrong with fructose?
High fructose corn syrup will give you cancer.
It's the only thing I can have. Because anything else will give me diabetic shock. So what do I do?
Agave. Agave syrup. Yeah, or maple. Maple.
Fructose is about the only sugar that my body will handle.
Are you
What about
excited?
maple or
This is the
agave?
last one.
Agave, I don't know anything about.
It's organic.
That's what I need.
It's
More
like a
excited
health
relief.
thing.
Does anything come with that in it?
Yeah.
Because I can eat an apple, but I can't have
Listen.
an ice cream cone.
I've got snacks that have
The
agave
election.
right now.
Believe me, I know I won.
They're,
Okay, I was just curious. No, because that's
they're like
basically
all natural.
I
the
received
only
enough
sugars that I
votes to
allow
satisfy
myself
me
to
because
have
people
is
heard my
natural
message.
fructose, which is in fruit.
You should look into agave. You can get it at Health and Nutrition.
I would have done it. I would have done it. Would have been happy to have done it.
Stop and
But
Shop, too.
believe me,
You can get it like ShopRite or Stop and Shop too.
quite a chore.
anytime you're in local government, there's issues.
You know,
Lately, it's
I
been
wasn't
particularly
going to say anything because I
with
wasn't
the
asked
town
to.
and village and
But
taking
every
all that
time you look
extra
at the
time
peddler's
on those governance
licenses,
issues.
and remember, you have a finite income in your businesses. You get a business like Yanni's, let's say, assessed at $300,000, pays $9,000 in taxes. once he's paid his $9,000 of taxes, there's $2 million over that goes into his pocket.
Right.
So if he has to sell 5 for lot for less, and we can get another $9,000 from another peddler, we have to worry about our taxpayers, not the businesses making money.
Peddler permits are $100 for a year.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying, when you talk about, well, he's gonna interfere with my business, I won't have as much business, I don't care. I'm not here to subsidize your business, I'm here to reduce my taxes. And if a guy standing in front of your store can give me you ever go to the city?
I grew up in the city.
Yeah, so I mean, you have 4 million street vendors, and because that's, forget the mortar and brick as you call it, they get all of that extra money, and gee, they're all doing well. You really think Yanni's is going to do that much, go out of business because there's somebody selling falafel across the street in their stand? That ain't going to happen.
I did not go real. Somebody say hello.
That's why, and then what do we do about the bid which I pushed? This is a food district. I want the businesses to pay their fair share. They don't. When you get $4,000 from the B&Gs who uses $15,000 a month for police services, where's the fair share? I don't want, like I agree with John, I don't want to see some guy get an advantage over brick and mortar because he's got no overhead. That we have to take into consideration too.
So what's going on here? So you have a nice afternoon this afternoon? I'm not going to ask. I don't
You're not barefoot?
you live in the living, right? Listen, she has to experience that. She understands. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay. Oh, okay.
This is after the spring.
I understand.
God, they don't have good quality. None of us behind
So this facade is coming on. He's the nice guy, he's not so nice. Which was a mistake.
He set something in motion and he got killed because he was trying to play business. If the bottom line is, I'd like to
I know that.
because she wanted to have mission. It's not a mission function.
I understand.
We should be doing it. Going to school board.
Yes.
And embarrassing the living shit out of
I know. I agree. I agree. I agree.
Sorry.
We speak to Tim. Hey Tim. Congratulations.
Like I said to him when I to the boat, put it empty car.
That was an autocorrect.
That the car was going to be empty.
That was an autocorrect.
That's a very good point. She gave away the beans. That's spilled the beans. That's very funny. Did you explain that? Did you explain that to her?
I didn't want to think I was opposed to what you saying.
Did her eyes? Okay. That's so fun. That's so funny. Hey John, sorry I missed you. What do you think?
We have a specific function defined by law. And if we step out of this, I don't want to be anybody's school board, like a person, like, the school board says, I want the school board to come out. I don't want to say, I don't want to be out there.
I understand.
Let the school board handle it.
That's right.
You know, let them go to people like Andy and the rest of the people and say, screw you, we don't care. Like Life did. She said, the kids aren't on problem once they come out of school. Well, that's a hell of an attitude.
That is a hell of an attitude.
Number two, I don't want the residents of Newport paying for something that should be distributed over the whole goddamn school district.
You're absolutely right. Right, it should be, the school should be getting all this. You know what she should be doing? She should say, because they can't give even $10 an hour, which I can't afford. I can't afford. She should say, you know what? I'm gonna use $5,000 on a salary. I'm gonna do whatever the hell I'm making. I put it towards that. She wants to be. That's what she should be doing.
The school board is saying,
You know what I'm
can't
saying?
do it. This is what the problem
Give the
is.
guy in the corner some money.
The school board saying, we can't do this. That's the law. All of a sudden, they come up with a law that says they can't hire a crossing guard.
Yeah.
But there's nothing in the law that says that we can't hire a crossing guard and we reimburse them.
You're right.
And this is what's got to be done. We've got to get a group together.
$55 million budget to kids across the board.
I mean, what's it gonna say? You want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning? The police department, the town of Newport's residents are subsidizing it. They can do their own checks. But we're doing it for them. We're doing the police. We're sending the people in the uniforms. We're doing all this. It's all coming out of the police budget. That's why I'm waiting for I want to see what they have to say.
Oh.
The fire department.
Oh, the fire department. Oh, okay.
One time it was fire department.
Why?
Because they come up and say, it's only going to cost you a few tens of thousands of dollars for the and I've come up with like 15 million. I don't know how many stories it's going to be, but I know it's going to have 7 residents. Well, we already got that because they and we never told them.
It'd be nice if you had the extra time when I leave.
But the state that can't make it by special equipment without reimbursement.
Say the least.
What do you think we're supposed to do about this thing that it's like? I looked through it. I'm thinking, it's like,
You go to your lawyer and ask for advice.
well, Joe Ariel sent me
You
this.
just start a court proceeding.
Right, so
I don't
are we
think
starting?
anymore.
Well, but
Well,
that's my
the
question.
one-
Like,
Let me
who
walk
does
away
that?
so I'm not. I don't want to be in conflict.
doesn't-
I don't want to cause a conflict or anything. I intended to send a copy of it to Joe in the morning because when something like this happens, the clerk should tell the village.
Right,
Let me
okay.
walk away and give you.
You can share these, these are extra.
Joe said, understand there's discussion.
If you live in the village, they can
Set
send you a set of
aside for the following, Mississippi National General, I believe, American Olympic League was a court action.
Yeah.
And pursuant to the court determination that Massachusetts stepped down, there may be grounds for my objective to the laws and has to be certain and sustained. I don't think you can just declare, if you're going to do something, be careful not to overdo. And if you guys have gotten, look, we have gotten no advice based on he said if you've gotten no advice, so be just trying to be proactive and so on. Well, it's still on an objective level. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if she's seeing this too. Yep, it is.
The way they should be assessed because they're not the service they need. Why should you, Jonathan Cohen, pay $15,000 on your home and you don't, use a certain amount of services? It's true. And why should somebody like P&G pay $15,000 and he's making $2 million a year? And that should be part of his assessed value. That business is worth X amount of dollars. That business is worth $3 million. And that's the way you
So the
assess
thing
it.
is, they're all along.
Now it's value of
Make
it, bloody word.
I'll move it forward, I guess.
Well, I would like to have done it earlier, but.
What do we benefit from that?
I'm gonna take that.
We benefit from nothing from the business. city as opposed to the consolidation.
Sal, you coming?
So what? I'd rather have a paid fire department, so I don't have to put up with bullshit guys from public hearing. Let's pay them. We have a sales tax, so let's pay them. What the hell does it make? If I can just.
I move we go into executive session to interview John Litton for the planning board.
Second,
All in
going
favor?
There's
into,
a line at the bathroom.
going
All in
into,
favor for executive session to interview John quick?
Brian? Yes, yes,
All right,
yes.
all, it's passed.
going to executive session.
So what? We're gonna have them go you to pay.
So if Brian shows up and you tell him where he
It's not like we're gonna not have the.
No,
revenue
Brian,
pay it,
we're
or it's not like we're not gonna get the taxes. What?
I just want to make sure so I can sign it, because I was lost.
Need more than 12 pages. And that means the business.
You did? So let me sign everything for you. So while you're in executive session, I'll sign every crazy person.
I mean, I listen to these people, and it's, oh, we're paying our share through the gate. Excuse me, you pay the county, you tell the county sheriff's department what the hell it is. You pay the state, you tell the state police department what the hell it is. What makes you think you can take that? And number one, number two, the law says we must protect the residents, not the businesses, the residents, is what the law says. But the law also says I can charge you for it. So we charge you through the A fund. And the A fund isn't enough because they only pay 24% of the total budget. My calculation is they should be paying close to $3.5 to $4 million because of the 97. That's close. Most people don't know this. And then I listen to bullshit people about how much they're doing. You know, it's like I said, consolidation. Everybody, well, I'm not for consolidation, I'm not against consolidation. I live in an apartment complex. My taxes, you reduce my landlord's taxes by 80%, I don't see nothing. No, so I don't care. I don't have a door in this. But that's you, John. That's not the fault of the landlords. If they get the bid, my Article 18.
Who does the Revlon do?
What about Mr. Olinsky? talking about these people. That's a dirty word in the current curriculum for schools. It's a dirty word. We don't have an entrepreneurial society anymore. We have a giving society. When we took minimum wage and took it away from the kids who, this is the way they grew up. They weren't going to make Burger King their life. They weren't going to be hamburger flippers for the rest of their life. This was a startup job, a few extra bucks in the pocket, and then they went on what they wanted to say they learned. Now all of a sudden, well, I can't make a living on it, but we were never supposed to, but we turned it around that these people must get their money. And there's no incentive. It's just, you know, exactly, and that should be. no business wants to kill its customers. Yeah. And that gives us additional tax revenue that we would not have.
I'm just saying.
No, people have no idea.
No, you're paying your dues.
Yeah. As I said, you walk through New York City, yeah, revenues, push points, give them, because they assess differently. But the point is, the brick and mortar gives them, let's say, their taxes are $10,000. Once that's reached, that's the end of it. Well, if I got 4 hot dog stands across the street from you, so instead of making 100,000, we only make 80,000, but I get the money to reduce my taxes.
No, that is you have to follow your purpose.
Mhm. Yeah. That's why when Jason years ago wanted to ban certain businesses, I mean, I was told me. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I said, my biggest fight with him was, I said, okay, so you're gonna set what businesses can and can't come into the building, and you're gonna set the prices, or am I gonna get gouged? Because I can't go anyplace else.
Miss you guys a lot, and I was like, I don't get this kind of discourse at my job, and I really miss it, honestly.
It's good, that's what you gotta,
Yeah.
that's what you gotta.
That's why I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm good, I'm working and just. Of course I know Easter.
That's what I thought.
No, I'm just working and I'm working in Shittyville. I'm a real estate paralegal. I do it's called Marcus Rosenberg and Diamonds, small transaction, litigation, real estate.
It's great stuff to learn.
I mean, it's a booming market. I can't.
Especially there.
Well, I mean, I'm on Madison Avenue, and yes,
So.
it's crazy. There's just so much money to be made, especially if you can do leasing. If we do a lot of leases, it's crazy. Or even property management, if you can like get in with a property management firm, that's amazing. It's huge.
You would know, yeah.
It is just like the
I know it is.
most
I
fees and fees and no
I made the motion at 9:58, Ariana seconded, it was unanimous. And we'll do the live. Remember everybody's back on the audio.
for a semester much go around to get my paralegal certificate. And I can use so many different programs, especially they have a whole real estate institute. Like you can do a semester and become a broker, a manager, all different kinds of stuff.
Are they right out there?
You got a couple of people in there who,
No.
first walking on every night on the other side of business.
Right?
Money,
Big deal about women on everything. They already own more than 50% of America. What do you want?
What does that mean?
It's just a fact. That's a fact, Jack.
Are we still waiting? Were we gonna wait, weren't we waiting on someone to be here for the plastic bag discussion? Last time? No, I thought that's what we tabled it from last time.
No, we wanted to have the discussion with the downtown business owners
Oh,
who all left.
right, sorry, I didn't realize it was still on
Okay,
I thought we were
because-
waiting for the person who wrote the little thing.
No,
That's
I
what-
made it very clear last time that she had graduated and is out of town.
Right, you're right. The plastic bags, I forgot that was for the DBA too.
That's a lovely, you've been having fun doodling.
Yeah, trying to keep everything straight.
I would be in favor of,
Oh, wait, we started back up here?
Yeah, we're live.
let's go back up to the top.
So here's what I've got that we haven't dealt with. Park Point Fire Department, 2, the fire protection contract, which is brief from Stuart. 3, the revolving loan fund, again, just a brief thing from Stuart. 4, the plastic bags. 5, the requested letter from SUNY for one of their grant applications. 6, Woodland Pond / Merzig. 7, oh, sorry, we already did Lytton. So those 6 things.
No, we didn't have all these up here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we'd already done the consent agenda.
Nope.
All right, so then I'll move the consent agenda with the changes made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We did, we don't have any report on 58 Main Street.
We do. We came at the table, it didn't come until today.
I have 18 Church, but I don't.
Both of them came back with no issue.
The motion's already passed, but do you want to make a
All right,
comment about it?
Both of them came back with
Then
no
go
issue.
ahead.
Okay. Yeah, there were no issues either.
And we have 5 and 6 to do as separate items.
Good item, sorry.
Let's do that one. Let's do 5.
You want to make the motion?
Sure, I'll move the appointment of Heather Nielsen to be deputy clerk. And what is the salary to be?
At her same existing salary.
This is the first,
It's in the budget. It was in the, it was a budget item.
Right, but
And it was discussed. Oh, you mean because there's nothing in the packet?
Well, there's no documents.
Okay, let's table it
What
till.
was the discussion on this? What was the discussion?
We approved that position in the budget.
Because she's right now doing the job, she's just as
Doing the
a
job, she just doesn't
uncategorized employee, that's all.
She's temporary.
Yeah, we just
until
wanna-
make the appointment.
right. Well, I remember that discussion. The fact that it was categorized as deputy clerk is what confused me.
Right.
We have to be. We can't have a deputy.
By law, we
We
can't
can't
have
have
another
another second. We can't have a second deputy treasurer. We have to, but we can because it's an all-encompassing job description that we did for Alberta and the IT person. They all fit
It
in
means
there.
they can report to Nancy without being a deputy treasurer. That's that's why we would categorize it as a
And
deputy
she was
treasurer.
temporary
Without
now.
like a set job description? There's no like set job description for what that means though currently.
Well,
There's a set job description for what Alberta's currently doing.
Okay.
So just like a broad terminology. I remember the conversation with Nancy. I do recall that, and I
And
remember her saying.
remember, Sandra Bennett left us.
I do recall that. Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and Heather's been doing this job, she's not. Is that job description what is attached to being a deputy clerk?
Yes. It's a generic
That's what
job
we
description
appointed
filed with the
her
county.
as temporary. Now, we're making it not temporary.
Right.
Because we legally can now make her permanent deputy clerk. She's in a temporary position.
I know that. And I remember obviously appointing her to that position. But she works in the treasurer's department.
Yes.
That's right. But we appointed her, if you go back, when Sandra left, we appointed her temporary deputy clerk because that's what we had to do in terms of civil service.
And these are all Nancy's recommendations.
That doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah, but we don't have any documents on what's on this exact.
You're only making her permanent what you already made her temporary.
I don't
And budgeted
remember
for.
saying deputy clerk will be.
That's what she's categorized as.
Yeah.
Whether you remember it is immaterial to whether it's actually happened.
Well, I mean, you know what would be really helpful for me to remember is having the documents here.
Yes. Well, at your very last meeting, I'm sure that's a very good position to start insisting on.
No, come on, let's not do this.
Well, then stop him before it starts.
How is that stopping? I'm just saying an item on the agenda should have documents with it. That's fine. I believe that's a stance
that's
you've
right.
taken in different occasions.
Yeah, I have trouble being okay with this without having some kind of document.
Just out of curiosity, why
Without having the job
didn't you bring this up before right this second?
Because that's why I took it off the consent agenda, and I told you, I got the agenda today.
Why didn't you do your due diligence and put documents together to get this done?
Because as Sal has explained, the only documentation is the exact same paperwork, only take the temporary out, and that's it. The only change, what we've seen before. It's been budgeted for, it's been discussed, it's been, this is a recommendation of the department head, this is after research in the personnel department, and you're not gonna be here after tonight, so really.
Right.
Please.
What? Sorry. I'm sorry.
Gang,
All right, go ahead. Good
please
job.
believe me. When we did the budget, we
Your point is a good one,
budgeted
you're
for,
demeaning it.
You're right.
we budgeted for her as a deputy clerk, moving her from temporary to full part-time, whatever that phrase is.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
We did it. We
Okay.
approved it. All we're doing is changing the word temporary
Yes,
to whatever.
I heard it all.
Okay.
If you guys want to vote the three of you, you can. I'm the vote
I'll
no.
move it.
I'll second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ariana?
Aye.
Thank you. Number 6. Do we want to waive the insurance for this or no? The park use request for marches against Monsanto, to be specific.
I think we should, based on the fact that we waived the insurance for the Ludwig Day, which is the exact same type of situation where they're gathering in the park, saying some words, and then walking on the sidewalks. And in fact, it's all the same day.
So you want to make that motion?
I will move to waive the insurance and approve the event.
Is there a second?
I'll second it for the purpose of discussion.
So what's the discussion?
I don't think it's the same at all as Ludwig Day.
Well, the purpose is not the same, no.
Just totally different. One is a political protest, and the other is a memorial gathering for people who need closure for somebody who was important to their life, and I see them as totally different. And so, I don't think we should approach it that it's the same as. Do we believe that political protest and we should waive the insurance because it is a group of people as opposed to an organization? I can support that, Ariana. But only if you agree that it is quite different.
I agree that the nature of the event in terms of its subject matter is very different.
Okay.
But all I was saying is that in terms of the activity that will be taking place, it's people gathering, people speaking, and then people walking down the street, and they're both organized by community members and not by some organization, and by community members that live in our community, for that matter. So yes, I don't think a political protest and a memorial celebration are the same thing.
Any other discussion?
Actually, I just wanted to point out that part of why they made the applications because they'll be amplifying their speech, so I don't know if the board wanted to weigh in on that before they went ahead and made whatever decision that's your call.
They'll be doing what? I'm sorry?
I don't know how exactly they're going to amplify their speech, but when they originally approached us, I said, well, anybody can gather in the park, and if you're walking single file down the sidewalk, not blocking traffic, you don't need the board's permission. And Ariana called me last Thursday and said that she encouraged them to fill out a form because they were going to be amplifying.
Yeah, I was going to say, I could just speak to this. It's going to be, basically, it's a portable type of amp that they're going to hook up a microphone to, but they're going to need electricity, is their big question of whether or not they could plug in somewhere.
They need electricity?
That's what's checked off here. It is, it's checked off on, will you require check off and apply, amplification and electricity.
Checked on
Yeah.
Oh, there.
On the form.
Yeah.
How does that compare with other groups that come to the park and have a band or something?
We tell them they can't. Unless they're specific, like, have filled out an event request form and said, we're gonna have a DJ.
Right.
If 10 people wanna gather in the park and have a DJ in the park, we would say to them, no, you can't do that.
No, I understand it,
Subject to
but
other noise
I
ordinance.
guess I should have been more specific. A group that fills out an application that says they want to have a band, how is that different than this amplified
When the board reviews
situation?
their application, you as a board decide, yes, we'll allow this, no, we won't allow that.
Yeah.
Because normally
You can be amplified till this hour.
And generally, it's done in Hasbro Park where they can plug in by the gazebo. And I speak from having organized band events, festivals at Hasbro Park.
Where are they planning to plug in?
Well, that's the question. I don't really know where there is electrical
Will you accept the
access.
friendly
Hasbrook
amendment?
Park is electrical. I don't
Yeah.
know where else you would look for them.
No, they're in Peace Park.
Can they
There's no allowed-
run
there's no outlets in Peace Park.
Can they run an extension cord
Not
to
across the
the front of
street.
Village Hall?
That wouldn't be
Not across the parking lot. Driving over it,
Do we-
tripping. I'd imagine unless you have to, because we usually have to put
I
the little,
mean,
the
I
little
mean, is
things
that
over
just
wires.
our arbitrary decision that we
That's-
can decide and say
Again,
yes
this
or
is
no?
stuff you gotta ask before the meeting. I don't know what else to tell you. You could talk to Blue and it'd be easy
How about
to
I
figure
offer a
out.
friendly amendment that...
I mean, you're the one
and-
saying it as a no, so that's why I'm asking you what your decision is. What were you gonna say, Sally?
Friendly amendment that they cannot have amplification of electricity because legally to run an extension cord across the street is not allowed. And I'm perfectly happy for this event to waive the insurance. That's the concession I'll make. But I'm gonna move that the request for amplification of electricity not be. I'll prove it otherwise.
Well, it's already removed. It's already removed, no?
Yeah, but I'm
She's making a friendly amendment.
It was-
If you don't want it to be friendly, I'll have to have a second, Ariana. Ariana, if you don't consider
Oh,
that-
I'll accept it. I mean,
Okay.
if, you know, if we legally cannot do that,
I
that's
don't
different.
think we can.
I don't know.
You can't run an extension cord across this public street.
Good question.
Just a comment. It might be possible for them to do it with a portable
Bullhorn.
that or else a portable
Battery operated.
generator or something else that doesn't require.
Right.
You could approve it pending they provide their own.
Electricity, saying that amplification can be allowed provided that they have their own electricity, source of electricity.
And the insurance? Is that sort of been waived as part of the motion?
Yeah, she said that we.
And is there hours so that if there is amplification, it won't?
I believe it's
2 p.m. to 3 p.m.
That's the whole thing, though.
No problem.
That's the walk and everything, Ariana.
Yeah.
They're not in the park for an hour. They're only
No.
gonna be there, what, you said 10 minutes?
Well, they're gonna be in the park for 45 minutes. The first 15, I think, is making. This is just from the flyer. The first 15 minutes is making posters. This isn't what I was told. This is what the flyer says. The second 15 minutes is speeches, and then the third 15 minutes is gathering everybody to get them onto the sidewalk and walk down the street.
If, it's again the will of the board, if they're agreeable to a possible change, since you can physically see Peace Park from Hasbrook Park, you could move traffic that expected to be in Peace Park over to Hasbrook Park if they would, if that's agreeable to them, would the board be allow them to move to Hasbrook Park with the electricity?
Nope, I wouldn't.
I don't think they would really want to anyway, just because all of the flyers say Peace Park, and yeah, you can see it, but changing the event location is not an ideal thing. I mean, I know you've been involved somewhat, peripherally, help make the lawn signs and stuff. So I don't know, maybe you want to weigh in on that if you think that they would want to do that even though Sally just said no.
I think, from what I understand of the tone, I think they also like the fact that it's called
Peace Park. That's what I thought too. Yeah. All right. I'd say why don't we accept Sally's friendly amendment, but have your amendment be amplification am I making a friendly amendment to your friendly amendment?
We're not supplying amplification.
No, they would have their own amplification.
They want us, as Rebecca suggested, they supply amplification at a reasonable level.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Let's see. That, we did that.
We're to the bottom now.
Yeah. Park Point Fire Department?
So in doing research, I have come to the conclusion that the only way the village would be able to move forward with requesting anything is if they were given a pilot. That's not to say that I won't do more research and try to see if there's some other way around this. Obviously, we have already written that we do not want them to get a pilot. So
that takes care of that.
So that kind of precludes our, and obviously we don't want to request anything unless it is looking like they are going to be getting a pilot. I mean, I would love for Wilmerite to make a community gesture and say, we would like to contribute X, Y, and Z in order for coming here. But, yeah, right. So I think I'm gonna continue to look into this and see what adverse environmental impacts can be mitigated based on what numbers come up if the RFP ever goes out from the town planning board to hire a outside financial consultant. I know that these numbers are, Ira can speak to this, the police commission has been working on getting some kind of call numbers generated and costs from
The cost of the police and everything else.
projected costs.
Projected costs based upon what the commission and the police department feel they're going to need to cover 700 students.
Could you email me that? If you have the spreadsheets or something?
We have, but it hasn't been, or we haven't voted on final one yet.
When it's
Yeah,
finalized,
no,
then.
we have a spreadsheet, we presented it to the planning board, but we told them it's not finalized because there are a lot of unknowns. It's very difficult to come up with figures. As I said, when you have a 66% increase in pension costs, that takes it from 450,000 to $1 million.
Yeah.
How do you project? So we're still working on it. We've come up with what we believe is necessary and what we believe those costs should be based upon 2011 actual figures per officer. But we're still kind of working with it. We were supposed to be sitting down. We've asked Wilmerite for information. They won't give it to us. So we've got our information. We've been invited to sit down, and we'll see where it goes from that point. But no, as soon as we get we had a meeting at the police commission today, and we've got authority to, from the rest of the commission, for those of us that are involved with this, to go ahead and come up with what's necessary, so we don't have to go back to them for a vote. So whatever we finally come up with, however the discussion with Wilmerite is, which I think is either Friday or next week, because I think Monday's a holiday, we'll see where it goes from there.
Oh, you mean at the planning board meeting? It's going to be Wednesday the 29th, from what I know.
Okay, so that's the, so that's where we are. No, we don't have, we've got figures, we're not releasing them.
But
Is that for all three? Is that for all three emergency services? That conversation?
No, Randall, the chair of the commission, tried to set an ad hoc committee with all three of the emergency services. The ambulance corps agreed, the police commission obviously agreed, and the fire department didn't want to be part of it.
That's not true. I think that they were they were notified at the last minute and they couldn't make it.
I was at the meeting, Ariana.
Oh, really?
He said he didn't want to, we said they want to work together, and he said, no, we'll do our own. But that's okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, who said it?
The chief, whoever the chief of the fire department.
Kevin McGuire.
So, which is fine.
Wow.
We don't have a problem with that, but we did get information from, because I had the discussion, we did get information from the ambulance corps, how many additional corps they're going to need. They came up with, they figured they're going to need at least 120 more calls, which means they need X number of people, which means they need X number of ambulance. They have their figures. We're waiting.
Are they going to be presented at the next meeting as well, or you don't know? Okay.
They haven't been presented to anybody. We got them because we use those figures to do our generations for the number of officers, because remember, every time an ambulance goes out, an officer in the car goes out.
Right, of course.
So, we know, like, for example, if they're saying there's going to be 120 more calls, we know we're going to have 120 more calls just to zone 7.
Right.
That's town zone 7.
Well, where are we actually at with the pilot? in terms of our involvement?
Well, I think I would like all of you to weigh in on what what your thoughts are and what you would like to do, because the biggest thing is that if they just pay taxes, we see none of it. And so the fire department doesn't get anything.
Well, they do in the sense that we have a fire contract.
Well, we have the fire contract, and that's done by number of calls, but that really does not equate to the increase in service. It's like that in terms of a large volume. If it's like 1 or 2 calls, another house, it's like this is. I mean, it's 732 beds. I don't know the number of units, but every unit has a kitchen. So, and they're all going to be on a central, like a central alarm, basically. Whereas, the apartment complexes that's being compared to, like New Paltz Commons or Southside, they don't have central alarm systems. Only the dorms do. But the dorms only have 1 oven and 1 kitchen per dormitory. So there's nothing that really will equate to exactly what we're looking at here.
I'm sorry.
No, go on.
Wouldn't number of calls that go out there equate to the amount of burden that they're putting on the fire department? I mean, if, let's say, they don't have any calls within a year, then is it really affecting the fire department that they're out there?
Yes, but they're not really yes, what you're saying is true, but they're not going to be contributing to, like, the village buying a new fire truck.
That's true.
Well, it seems to me that if we are in the position of we think they should pay more taxes, that's that. If we think they are going to successfully negotiate a pilot, that's something else again.
Right.
And I would suggest, if people agree, that we have a general motion and a general position that at any time, now or in the future, that the town negotiates a pilot.
The county. The town doesn't negotiate pilots, the county does.
Yeah. No, but the town has to approve it. We have an email a long time ago saying that unless the town was in favor of a pilot being
Right. The county IDA is, in general, not going to go against the local municipality.
If there's not encouragement from.
But that doesn't mean that they won't change their minds and decide that these guys deserve a pilot.
Who?
That the county could decide to go against the municipality, and I mean they said they wouldn't, but that's not binding in any way, and I don't believe that they will. I mean I like to believe that they're not going to grant the pilot.
Let me finish what I was trying to say, and then we can argue over the merits of whether the county is credible or not. It seems to me that if now or in the future, the town of New Paltz either encourages, whatever, a pilot in lieu of taxes, that we go on record that we would like to be involved in the discussion and negotiation of the pilot because of its impact on the village of New Paltz.
Okay.
Period, the end.
I think before you go on record, you should just wait and see what happens. And then...
No, I want to make a motion.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like that is... I mean, it may not be, but I feel like that's encouraging the option. It's like the same thing of like putting in a request when we don't really know where it's going to go yet.
But my concern is, if it does go,
right,
we lose all ability. We want to be on record, it seems to me, saying that should you, in the future, and this isn't just Wilmer, it's any project which might be handled by a pilot, that the village wants to be consulted and involved in the negotiation of the pilot because of its impact on us. That's all I want to say. I'm not directing it to Wilmer Wright, I'm saying to the town, if in the now or in the future you're considering doing this, we want a piece of the pie. That's all.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor? Or, I'm sorry, discussion?
Yeah, has anybody check to see what the actual pilot policy is for the county IDA? I mean, I asked that because I was counsel for 22 years for an IDA in another county, and that they're each required to have their own policy about pilots. And the one I'm familiar with, the policy was, we don't give you any break on taxes. If you want one, then you can go to the individual taxing jurisdictions and ask them, if, because you're bringing this great project, whether they're willing to do it or not. So that was that IDA's policy. So do we know what?
I've read this, and it's basically, it's all about job creation and economic growth, is what they would have their basis for a pilot. And like Woodland Pond got a pilot because they brought a lot of jobs to the community.
Right, but Wilmerite will not.
Well, yes, we know that, but
Stuart's asking
A different question. Tim, do you know
mechanically
the
how it
answer?
works, and the IDA, the county IDA would grant a pilot that would exempt them from paying real property taxes or the mortgage recording fee, and then also buying construction materials. without
Sales tax.
paying a tax for them. So they don't have to negotiate with the individual taxing authorities.
So, but it depends what their policy is, so we ought to...
That is the county policy, and that's the type of pilot that Wilmerite's pursuing.
say it again,
Which part?
the policy part. What they would not pay taxes on.
Mortgage recording tax, real property tax, and sales tax for construction materials. That's the type of pilot they're pursuing.
And there's nothing in the policy that makes them go to the municipalities to get... Okay, that's the question.
So in making this motion, do you think that we would be included?
Well,
You know,
the town
just
is
because we-
negotiating.
The town is negotiating, you can ask to be included, but obviously it's between the town and the IDA. Again, we talk about pilot, it gets a little crazy with them because they had the law changed to allow a pilot for a dormitory. But they got the dormitory, and then they got a whole section of the building that's private rental.
Your pocket's singing.
Yeah, I know. I didn't want to interrupt.
If it's for me, I'm not here.
No, I mean, this was the same thing, this is what we're bringing up, because how do you come up with a pilot? The IDA can, from what I was told, the IDA can just say, the hell with you, like they did with Frito-Lay or whatever, we're putting it in, and they don't like it too bad. That's their authority, that's the IDA.
I think technically that's correct.
Pardon me?
I think technically that's correct. They can do what they want.
That's what they do with Frito-Lay, and Frito-Lay gave us, Frito-Lay gave us one job for one truck driver. And they got the pilot. But the point is, this is such a mess in what's going on. Wilmerite won't talk to anybody. Wilmerite, when we requested information from Wilmerite, said, go talk to the planning board, they're the lead agency. So we only started to get involved publicly when we finally got our figures together, so we could sit there and say, Wilmerite just misled a whole bunch of things, and I don't have a problem saying that.
Shocking.
We want to have a little party, and it is getting late.
No,
I have a motion on the floor.
Well, but I have one other thing. The fire department has to sign off on things for them to be granted, for Wilmerite to be granted a variance. And so I don't believe that they want to just, use that as leverage, but maybe we could do something about using it as leverage.
Fire
But,
department or the fire company has to go to
yeah, I think it's...
Shouldn't they be going to the planning board and expressing exactly what?
I encouraged them to come on the 29th. They really wanted to have village board support for something.
Okay, no, that's okay.
And not doing it without our knowledge and without our support.
That's what you get what you want. You want to put and say, we want A, B, and C. But the town tell us, you say, we're not going to sign off unless.
Okay, well, we're not prepared. I imagine we're not prepared to make that level of detailed commitment since As Brian was just complaining about, there's nothing in front of us to base anything on. So it can't be anything but a
The
general.
thing that Jason is, I don't
Sorry.
have any of these documents to share with anybody. I don't think
Sure.
anyone has these documents,
That's,
but.
I was just answering, Ira, we can't get to that level of specificity without that kind of documentation.
My motion
I'm
covers it.
sorry, but the person chairing the meeting has got to clear away some of the conversation that's happening.
Your motion covers what will happen if a pilot is being negotiated, but this is more general than just whether or not a pilot is being negotiated. I mean, how would we like to support the fire department is what I'm asking. I'm happy to go, and I told the chief that I'm happy to go with him to the town planning board and discuss these things with them, and he's prepared to go with me on the 29th. They would like our support in something, whether it be that we want to. I mean, we don't necessarily have to make a motion tonight. This is not going to be the last time the planning board is going to be discussing this. So we can continue this discussion and start the discussion at the planning board with the chief and myself. But I don't want to do something that all of you don't agree with.
All right, I would like to have my motion
Isn't that
voted
fair?
on, and you're asking me a different question, and I believe that there should be a proposal from the chief to this board.
Okay.
Could we review what the motion on the floor is?
We haven't voted on it yet.
No, the motion on the floor.
Review what
No,
it
I want to
is.
know what it is before I vote.
Tell me if I get this wrong, Sally. The motion on the floor is that when the town gets to the point, when and if the town gets to the point of sitting down with Park Point, we get a seat at the table, or we
Well, no,
want a seat at the
all
table.
pilots.
All pilots.
In the future
Not
as
just this
well.
one, okay. Pilots in general.
Anytime a pilot is being negotiated,
We should be part of the conversations.
yes.
Be part of the conversation.
So is there any more discussion on that specific question? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the last thing was, Ariana was asking for a more hard and fast commitment to the board about how to support the fire department. Sally and I agreed about needing something in writing, a proposal, what the fire department want, I guess. Where are we at with that question? Is that fair? Do you want to come back
Yeah, I
after
think
that?
that's fair.
Okay. Bring it to the first meeting in June even, if you and Kevin have time to sit down?
I mean, if they're willing to.
Whenever the chief gets it to you.
If they're willing to put this kind of stuff, in writing before us as a request, I think that he felt like it would have more weight if it came from us, not from.
The village board is on record as to our position on Park Point, and I think that should be enough support for whatever.
Well, no, because
Me.
that's nothing about the fire department that what we're on record with. We're on record with
I want to see a proposal.
sustainable housing. We're on record with anti-pilot.
Well, we are on record as saying we are opposed to a pilot.
Right.
And we want them to pay full taxes.
Right.
So if that occurs, end of story. The fire department is the fire department, and it will be based on, our contracts will be based on number of calls and all that kind of stuff. You're saying if you're assuming a pilot's going to be negotiated, or Kevin is assuming that a pilot is going to be negotiated, and until such time as we know whether that is true.
There's no assumption being made. There was a hope that we could get things paid for without a pilot, which everybody's telling me is not going to be possible.
Maybe you should look into that whole leverage thing and see what the legality is, and if
Right, because it might be illegal for us to do that.
right, you might not be able to withhold that signature. It might just be something that he has to do, or it might be something that.
Well, he definitely doesn't have to do it. It's based on safety regulations.
Okay.
It's it's a variance for it's the variances that they're applying for with the town ZBA, which is a height variance and a density variance. And so, there's a certain amount of space that has to be between buildings,
Right.
and they want to put them closer. And environmentally, I'm in favor of that.
But from a fire standpoint, it's not a smart idea.
Right.
Right, but if the ZBA approves it, does that mean that the fire department has the ability to be like, well, no?
No.
Well, no, the fire department.
We don't know that. We don't know
The
that.
fire
We don't know
department
anything
has
about
to
this.
sign off before the ZBA approves it. That's a requirement.
And the fire department may not be able to say no if it meets all the statutory safety and fire management regulations.
I
They
believe
don't have the authority to say
Well,
no.
no, it does not. That's why there's a variance being requested. It does not meet all of those.
I think we need a proposal or a public appearance by the chief.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Actually, so segueing directly, Stuart, you want to take over from Ariana and briefly go to something about the fire protection contract?
Yeah, so I believe it...
Thank you, Larry.
Good night.
Thanks,
So
Larry.
the fire contract is signed now?
Yep.
Okay, so
All parties.
what you might recall from the joint meeting, we mentioned briefly that the fire company agreed to sign the contract and did, but they were most anxious in making sure that the people on the two boards knew about their position about the 10% versus a fixed number. So I have that position written out and to give to everyone. And what I'm suggesting is I have 3 copies of this, which basically I'm asking the members of the village board and the town board to sign that they've received this, which has no binding effect on the new contract, but we will have done what we said. We can prove to the fire company that we have put the word out that this is what they're feeling. And they also know that it has no binding effect on any future contract. So that's what I would like to do, and I have copies of the statement in this. And
What is wrong with just moving to attach that to the contract?
I don't think it's really related to the contract. It's related to
certainly
something
is.
that happens in the future. It's related to additional contracts in the future. And my idea is that the town will get one of these, the village clerk will get one of these and we'll give one to the fire company so that they could say, yes, we all knew that was what you cared about at the time, and it's in the file. So that's what I suggest that we do.
I'm in favor of attaching it to the contract.
Let's not have a whole big discussion of what we do with the fire company statement. I mean, we can just distribute them, and people can sign or not if they choose.
Okay.
We all have to sign.
No, I'm not going to sign. They can ask me if I read it. Do you want to talk also about the revolving loan fund?
Sure.
While you've got the floor?
It's creating a record is the point.
I understand. It'll be in the minutes of the meeting.
Okay, quickly on the revolving loan, you will recall that because there were some perceived difficulties with the revolving loan and how it was working, and that there hadn't been a loan in 4 or 5 years at least, that it was felt important to put the Blue Ribbon Committee together to look at it, people with economic development experience, local business people, someone from the county development corporation, and Ariana and I were on the committee from the board. So the committee met several times, went over, it's a question of balancing how to make these low-interest loans available to people at not a very high cost, because they won't apply for them if the fixed costs are too high, on the one hand, and having sufficient collateral to protect the village's money, which you want to keep recycling over and over, on the other hand. So we went through several drafts of the guidelines, and now you have to look at the guidelines that the committee suggests, an application which is not in electronic form yet, we only have a printed form, and the example of the obtaining credit form. So that's for purposes of looking at, and then if you think well of that idea, then the board can move forward and start accepting applications again. There's a couple other things that the committee suggests. One is that the board approves spending up to $1,000 to have a transactional attorney draft a standard set of documents which applicants can look at when they come in. I mean, obviously they'll have to be applied to their own situation. And there are some of those on hand, but to look at that, so it'll make it that much easier when someone applies for a loan as to what they're going to get into. And also, just as important, prepare a closing checklist in case, no matter which attorney closes in behalf of the village, they'll have to follow this checklist to make sure everything is done properly. And that ties into a hope that you'll be able to entice a list of transactional attorneys who do business in the village to to do, say, one of these closings a year for free to cut down on the applicant's cost. Obviously, they can't be related to the transaction in question. And also, the committee recommends expending the funds. In both of these cases, the funds would come from the fund itself, not from the operating budget, to spend some funds to market the program once it's up and running. And besides the members of the committee who are business people, there's been ongoing discussion with people in the business community, and next week there's another meeting and we'll talk to them about it. But now I think there's sufficient information so that the board can say whether it likes those guidelines or not and those criteria, and whatever their decision is, then to put it out and start accepting applications.
I have one question on the actual guidelines. It seems to me that it says to preserve or protect significant historic aspects, features, or landmarks in the village, and yet you don't really allow them to apply for the loan.
Allow who to apply for the loan?
If I bought an historic house that was really in bad shape, and I wanted to preserve it, and it was on the historic designation list from the Historic Commission, I don't believe that I could get a loan.
That's correct under these guidelines because they don't apply for residential loans. But if you had a historic building on Main Street and you wanted to make changes to it or preserve the historic features and hire more people, etc., then you could apply for a loan.
See.
And that's why the historic features part was added at the request of the Historic Preservation Commission of the village, and that's new. And remember, we talked about that before, I believe, but that's why that's in there.
I think all historic buildings in the village of New Paltz should be eligible for a loan if it means the building being destroyed or preserved.
I think that...
I hear what you're saying, because the idea of preserving the historic buildings is in here, but the loans themselves are for job creation and economic development, and not just for the restoration of
I
historic
understand
properties.
that, but what I'm saying is I think it would be good if, is it against the process of the loan to not allow the lending of money for the preservation of a building? I'm thinking...
You're talking about a building or a residence? If it's a residence, these guidelines would not allow you to do that. Not that it's not a noble thing to do, and maybe the village should establish another fund to do that kind of thing, but this is, a commercial situation.
Yeah.
You want to fix your storefront, you want to do something. The historic part comes in as to the existing commercial businesses.
For example,
Like historic Huguenot Street. Go on.
Oh, I was gonna say HD Dick's hot dog place. That's the old school building, and he has
I thought that
done.
was Enchanted Toys.
The one next to it is also old school building. He has done a ton of work, and he's done work to restore it to its natural, like what it was originally, including like the door, like the glass doors, and all that work. So like this would be something for.
Well, he would be eligible.
He would be eligible for it, and that's kind of what we're doing because we want our businesses.
But I'm just saying that if, and I can think of a couple of places, an old Dutch farm, and we have very few of them. Okay, now we have none. Okay, but the old Dutch farm that used to be behind Murphy's, that should have been preserved.
Okay.
And it's gone now.
Right.
So my point is, you want to preserve it, and turn it into a B&B or whatever.
But that's not a residence.
No, well, but he's gonna live in it as well, so it will be a residence. Most B&Bs are residences.
But it's a business.
Right.
Well-
If it's a B&B, it is a business.
All right,
It
we
is
won't
not
make it
considered a
B&B.
residence.
We're
It's for
gonna make
commercial
his
purposes.
artist studio. He's an artist.
Still commercial,
No?
It could be if it's also a gallery.
And I can't even follow the conversation because I mean, I haven't even read this. I got it as I sat down tonight. So I mean, unless there's other, I mean, I'm not sure. I'm just kind of curious what it is you'd
I
like us to talk about tonight.
we just want to present this.
No, we're
Okay,
not.
the questions that are
We're
coming,
getting into a debate. I want to.
I know, but the questions that are coming our way, we're not going to not answer unless we decide not to talk
Which is
about
why
this tonight.
I interrupted to refocus the conversation so we can get down to time to do what you want to do.
There's no intent to have any action taken tonight, or I
Okay.
think you should read these.
Yeah, no, clearly.
But right now, just to say right now, this is not for residential purposes. If you wanted to do that, first of all, you'd have to see if that was okay, because this is money from commercial loans that were made that were paid back that came into this fund. Mostly, the reason for it is job creation, although once they've signed off on the HUD loans, then you have a lot of leeway what you do. But residential is not the main thing.
But that was my question, which wasn't answered, Stuart, and that
Which
is,
one?
are there restrictions, not your guidelines, on the fund itself when it was created
Well,
that
that's,
say it has to be used for commercial purposes?
there's actually very little on that of record that we could find. So you have to go kind of on general HUD guidelines, and two of the people on the committee are former economic development directors who dealt with HUD all the time, and we have their input on this. I don't think this is a science. I think it's kind of an art when you go back, 20 years ago we had a loan from HUD and they signed off on it. It's not that easy, but these are all good questions, and I think once you've read that, you get your list of questions, and this committee is very good, and they would be the ones looking at the application first, and the bankers who came out, there's two bankers on the committee, and as long as they're not making the loan, they've agreed to have their people do the analysis of the loans and bring it to the committee, and of course, the committee can only recommend to this board, and the board would have to approve any loan that was given.
I mean, this is great. And it seems like you guys did a lot of work on this. I'm surprised because on the paper that the work had been done.
Don't start.
But
Yeah, probably not a good idea to start by. We got it tonight.
You're almost done.
All right, we got a letter in, and I do apologize this afternoon. I got it this afternoon from KT at Creo asking for an endorsement letter for they're applying for another grant for their green infrastructure project on campus, and just wanted to know if we would send in a letter of support. They conclude with their application that's due on Friday. This is the same grant funding that I think you met with Kurt about at least once, Kurt and Rich.
Yeah, I met with Kurt and Rich about it. I mean, I think if
So you
they
know
had
the
had your
grant program.
support,
Sorry?
we would have been able to move forward on it.
They've had my support, and I know it.
That didn't seem to be the case.
Well, you're wrong.
But-
So let's talk about this soon. Let's talk about what's actually on the agenda, which is a request from our neighbor to send a letter of support. If you'd like to do it, I can.
I'm happy to support this, obviously.
Well, I'll make the motion then to send it. I have a copy if anyone's curious.
I'll
It's very
second.
short. Where is it?
Piece of tip, I had a question. This is the grant that is going to support these parks, right?
This is another grant for the same project, but the same project is a Peace Park.
Right.
They have a thing with DEC separate. They're applying for another grant to get even more grant funding for the same project. For their end, not for us. We're not getting money from this grant. This is just SUNY. They want our
But it's
help.
that same
Yes.
river.
It's for
Where are we
interpretation.
on Peace Park?
All we're doing now is waiting on prices from Stone, but again, I'll bring that up. It'll be on the next agenda as far as I know. I gotta check with Rich. But that is, again, separate from this letter. So I just wanted the motion is to endorse this, and I'll pass it around. If not, you can vote it down.
Don't forget, we need to review bid documents.
I know, absolutely.
Okay. All right, I will move this, or did you move it?
I moved it. You
I'll
want to
second.
second?
I already seconded.
Any other discussion?
I'm in favor of this, but I guess I don't understand the process. How come if you're applying for a grant, don't you do these things like weeks ahead of time or something? I don't, I mean, why is like tonight we gotta do it
You'd
in
have to
Bassett,
ask,
which is
you'd
fine,
have
but,
to ask
you know.
SUNY. I don't know what their schedule was. I got the
Okay.
email, can you send us a letter
Okay.
of endorsement? I said I'd bring it to the board, that's all. You guys can vote no if you like. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm sorry,
Okay.
Brian.
I would like to move that the minutes reflect that the village board accepts and understands the explanation of the fire company's intent respecting future fire protection contracts. And if it's in the minutes, then we're done.
I'll second it. No, I'll sign it too. I'd be happy to.
All right, is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm a nay, because I haven't read it, so I don't know I understand it. Two more items on the agenda. One is the authorizing the mayor to refer the delinquent Woodland Pond account to our water attorney. Woodland Pond did pay their bill, but they're asking for the late fees to be of about $1,000 to be waived. Personally, I'm not in favor of that because they chose not to pay it because of an objection to the rate rather than any hardship, but that's the request. The motion, I'll move to refer that account to our attorney. Is there a second?
I will second it with a friendly amendment, and
Okay.
that is that they be called by you tomorrow.
Which one is they? Woodland Pond or David
Woodland
Mertz?
Pond, Mr. Seidman be called by the mayor and said, "Dear Mr. Seidman, when you met with us and discussed it, it was all fees needed to be paid, or we would refer it. Do you want us to refer it?"
Well, then what's the point of the phone call? They didn't pay all the fees, and then we now just refer it, yes?
No, I think it would.
Or you just let them know we are referring it now? Okay.
Are you going to pay the late fees, or are we going to be forced to refer it?
Well, actually, the vote right now is not, that's not my motion, that's unfriendly amendment, because the motion is not to give him another chance, the motion is to send it to our attorney to take care of the delinquent bill. So it's actually the exact opposite of what I moved, is to give them, are you gonna pay it, or are we gonna hire the attorney?
Before you send it to David, I am saying there may have been a misunderstanding, maybe not.
You mean over whether the fees were included?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll call him, sure, as long as I have the authorization afterwards to send it to David. Well, I don't, because the vote hasn't been taken.
We don't have a second.
So it's been seconded. Any other discussion?
So just to clarify, so what happens if he says, yes, I'm gonna pay it, then what, do you give him a few days to pay it or
Then he
something?
has 24
Give him till the end of
hours to
the,
pay.
close of business Friday.
Okay.
If it's right up the street, if they can't
Okay,
get
that's
down here.
even more generous than I.
Just asking.
It may take time to cut a check. I don't know if there's a billing department or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know, actually. I'll ask Nancy, I'll get Nancy's advice on that. If there's something unreasonable about Friday, I'll just
I think
hold on.
Friday is fine,
Yeah.
and he can call the accounting department.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And the last thing, is, unless I forgot something, is plastic bags, which we'd hope to have with the businesses, but
Yeah,
we've forgotten about that
you
part.
know what, we're having a meeting, Stuart and I are presenting the revolving loan fund documents on next Tuesday to Julie's ad hoc committee with all the businesses. So I also asked her if we could talk about this then, as well as the peddler's permit stuff, actually. So we'll have more feedback at that time. But Stuart was kind enough to print out the New York Times article, so you can see that this is really a relevant topic in more than just me and my intern's world and in Washington, D.C. Where Washington, D.C., they're allowed to put a fee on bags, as you saw. We're not actually allowed to do that in New York State. So we would have to, if we want to do anything, we'd have to do an outright ban. So that's
Or
just so
charge.
everybody knows.
You're allowed to charge.
We're not allowed to tax.
Right.
So, what do you mean
You
charge?
could
Oh, a business could charge for plastic bags, right. Health and Nutrition did that for a while and people were pretty outraged. They had gotten corn-based plastics and they were 25 cents a bag, and then they went back to just giving boxes that they're shipped, packaged groceries came in, and so if you don't bring your reusable bag, you can take a box, and they are free. But I think they discontinued it because people got so upset. So I think that a lot of businesses will not be into charging, and I think that most businesses won't charge unless we do something to make it the case.
I'm not sure I approve of banning them.
Well, a lot of businesses already use paper bags.
But that may be economically not profitable for them.
I mean,
Let's see what the business owners tell Ariana.
yeah, I want to see what they say. I mean, there's definitely businesses that were cited in here as saying that this is not a good thing, but I think we all need to do a little bit to help the environment, and this isn't, it's not that huge cost. When I lived in New Zealand, nobody had plastic bags. Everybody gave away reusables wherever you shopped. And then people would be carrying around a reusable bag that said your store name on it, and everybody carried these reusable bags everywhere, and as their purses. So I think, it's really a mind shift in culture, not just, But I want to get the business feedback, and that's why we really aren't discussing this tonight.
I think Jason's idea of talking with the business owners is good, but I also think unless the town, which has most of the plastic bags at the grocery stores, if they would do this as a joint effort, that would be better.
Well, if we had one government, that wouldn't be an issue, but I will be happy to present it to them.
All right, with that,
I motion to go into executive session.
to discuss what?
Personnel matters.
Does anyone else know what this is about? I don't.
I want to discuss what Vicki Danskin presented to us today.
I see. Well, you're welcome to. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay? You guys talked about this already last week in executive session, so.
No, we didn't actually. Last week we discussed what the Board of Elections presented to us, not what we got tonight.
Of course.
And I imagine it'd be prudent of you to stay for the discussion.
No, actually be counterproductive and a waste of everyone's time.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah, so you guys are going to executive session now, yes?
Based on this and the sworn testimony of the election inspector, do you plan to step down from your seat as mayor?
Yeah. For
Absolutely not.
specious reasons? No.
All right. Let's go.
Are we going to executive?
Yeah. Oh, all in favor?
I said that actually before.
We already voted.
Oh, okay, good. I don't know if you got that.
Do you have the signed fire ban?
I do. I have one.
No, I don't think we're gonna. I mean, are we?
Huh?
Are we still going in?
You know?
No, you don't want to discuss it. I mean, I wanted to
I only
discuss
have
it
one
with
signed
him,
one that has that here.
but
I don't know what we're doing.
I just thought that would be.
Just trying to figure where the other ones are, that's all.
They're in the
Stay for cake.
I would have to go in as soon as possible.
Here you go.
And if you want a cup of coffee.
Is there any reason why I can't take those and distribute them?
I'm sorry.
Are we gonna be
Reason why I
making
can't take these
motions?
and
Maybe,
distribute them?
but
No, they're all
We
signed.
could. Don't
Might as well start the party without us. Well, I can't even take anyway. You can't eat cake anyway? Yeah. Why? Coffee doesn't have any gluten in it. Go get